Welcome to Truth UnCompromised. I am your host, Rhonda. Join us every Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Truth is peace. Truth is justice and freedom to love, live, and be. Music provided by SourceVibrations.com. I am love. I am peace. I am free. I have abundance. I have everything within me. For I was, for I am, for I always be. We are love. We are peace. We are free. We have abundance. We have everything within us. For we are, for we will always be. For Mother Earth is love. For Mother Earth has peace. For Mother Earth is free. For Mother Earth has abundance. For Mother Earth has everything within her. For she was, for she is, for she will always be. And so it is spoken. So it has been written, and it is done.
You have entered into a dimension of truth where time does not exist and illusions are shattered. The journey of truth is intense. The journey of truth will set you free. Consider this a warning as you enter the dimension of truth uncompromised.
All right, family. Welcome to the Truth Uncompromised show. I am your host, Rhonda, and tonight we have a great show planned for you. This is Thursday, August 1st. We are continuing our series, The Lands of the Giants, Part 14. So last week we picked up with the information that Cicero gave us regarding the giants existing in the Americas. So we spent a lot of time discussing in the Ohio region, specifically Connet. So we're going to, I told y'all, Cicero sent me so much information. I still have more information to go into tonight on the giants in the Americas. So if this is your first time joining us for this series, I highly encourage you to go back to episode 1 of this series, where we use in content for the series, and we will still use that, a book called The City of Bashan, and it is discussing where a gentleman back in 1865 did an expedition to trace the biblical cities over in Africa / the Middle East. And what he was running across was ancient ruins of giants, and he was tying those different ruins back to biblical events that spoke of giants. So just by digging into that particular book, we started to uncover how when you say giants, you have to put it in a different content. So giant is just not one term, okay? So you had specific different races of giants that existed. So as we come over here in America, in the Americas rather, so that means also including South America and the islands, we also found out that giants existed here as well. A lot of the remains have been found. It has been covered up heavily. We also learned that a lot of the indigenous tribes have documented through their stories passed down from generation to generation the different battles that they participated in with giants. Now, interestingly enough, shout out to the Lenape tribe. There is legend of them battling giants, but the interesting thing about it, it appears in that legend that, you know, they were battling another tribe who were considered giants as well. So does that also make the Lenape were giants? So very, very interesting stuff. We're going to pick back up with digging in a little bit more in different areas of the Americas. And then I have a lot of follow-up items as well. So I'm going to bring on my co-host. But before I do that, I do want to send a shout out. I have not played that song on the air for quite some time. On the opening, I played Brother Roy Ayers. It's the song is literally called Third Eye. Came back out in the 70s. That song is special to me because it was literally one of the first shows that I ever did. That was the song that I led out with for that show. And, you know, I grew up in the 70s, and I remember as a child hearing that song and always loving it. But of course, consciously, I did not know what it meant. But of course, my subconscious knew. So for those of you that are younger, if you're not familiar with Roy Ayers' work, I highly, highly recommend it. Specifically, go to the, y'all don't even call them CDs no more. Shit. I don't even know what y'all call because we called them album in my day. So go to the album with that Third Eye song on it. And he dropped a lot of nice songs on that album. Totally metaphysics. If you listen to that Third Eye song, he is literally telling you the secrets of numbers, the secrets of sound. So the secret of wisdom will be found. So he's literally dropping metaphysics, science in his lyrics, telling you literally how the universe operates. Okay. So very, very great music. He's put out a lot of great body of work. So I highly, highly recommend you all, if you're not up on Roy Ayers, get up on him. That elder still lives to this day. As a matter of fact, shout out to one of my sis in Atlanta. She knows who she is. She literally just met up with him and posted a picture of the elder when he was in Atlanta. So shout out to Brother Roy Ayers for such wonderful, wonderful music. Okay, so with that said, let me bring on my co-host. I see Brother Sean and I see Sis Sandra. Let me bring on Brother Sean. Peace and love, brother. How are you?
Wholeness and power, sis. I'm good. How about you?
I am good. I'm good. Good to hear your voice.
Likewise. You know, Coneyard is an indigenous name.
It makes sense. It makes a lot of sense. And I've looked it up. It sits right there close by the water.
Uh-huh. Coneyard Lake. It's a lake out there.
Oh,
used to be good
okay.
fishing out there.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
How far is it outside of Cleveland?
It's not that far. I'd say about 45 minutes to an hour.
Okay. I didn't think it was that far. I didn't think it was that far at all. So, very, very interesting stuff. Okay, let me bring on Sis Sandra. Here we go. Peace and love, sis. How are you?
Peace and love to you, Sis Rhonda and Brother Sean and Sis.
Hey, sis.
Hey.
How you doing?
Hey. Do they still see?
Yeah, well, I know I do, so. So you doing okay?
Yeah, I'm doing fine. I'm rushing, but
I hear you. I hear you. Huh?
I said life is real tough on this planet right now. People are really freaking out.
Yeah, we're gonna get into go ahead on with the fuckery tonight. I was literally with some co-workers today, and we were sitting outside, and usually when that sun is out, for the most part, they don't go out. And so it was really a nice day, and the sun really wasn't beaming, and it really fascinated me because they started talking about how hot the sun is, and then one gentleman even got into saying that, how the planet is changing, and, how, he feels everything is going to flood, and California is going to break off. So I'm just sitting there just cracking up to myself because I'm like, So common folk are noticing what's going on. Okay, then. So very interesting.
I was in a store, and a young girl, literally 24 years old, she said, the world is getting really, really, really bad. And in really bad times.
Yep.
A new dimension.
Yep.
She said, I know that. She said, and people are just sitting around, and they don't even know what's going on. I said, you know what's going on? She said, yeah, I know what's going on. And I was really, really impressed with the things that she has to say about it. People are not attention to what's going on.
Yeah, well, those that aren't paying attention at this point, they just don't want to. They want to keep their head buried in the sand. So it is what it is.
Yeah, it is what it is, isn't it?
Yeah. So, sis, did you have any go ahead on with the fuckery?
Oh, goodness. I am.
And Brother Sean, I think we're getting a lot of feedback from your phone.
Now you try.
I think it's your. Okay, yeah, that's what it sounds like. Okay, cool. Okay, sis, you have go ahead on with the fuckery.
Yeah, I'm getting kind of tired of this racial card, on Baltimore, Maryland. I don't know, but I've been to Baltimore, and I want to tell you, I don't want to go back. That's the only place that I know disgusting, and I got bit by bed bugs in a bed, and the sheets look crisp and clean and white, and when you pulled it back, there was old hair in the mattress pads. So, the streets were messed up, the brownstones, the beautiful brownstones were all tore up. I don't understand if people don't understand that we are living really bad, and when I don't like Trump, I don't, but
right
when he calls out what is obvious, they're gonna try to cover it up with that racial card, and I don't think that's really right because our people were suffering in an area like that. California is now getting these homeless people that come up to the car and they're filthy and everything. 2 years ago, it wasn't like that here. But I went to Baltimore, and they had them everywhere. And I said, whoa. Yeah, so, if you're not doing your job to help your people, don't start calling the race card on people, because that's nothing about a rat is nothing to do with race. Nothing to do with race. It's filth. And that place is awful. It's awful. And my son and I went there, and the building we went in was tore up, old, dilapidated, one bathroom per women, one bathroom for men, and one toilet per bathroom. And there was lines of people trying to get in. And it's not even cold in California, And so why you guys get off talking about your city and you go cry for it? You need to cry that you're living there.
Anyway, you allow it to be a shithole.
You allow it to be, and go stand up there and cover somebody up, and cover for them, talking about it's a race card. It's no race card. It's no race card. You guys need to quit that stuff. And Trump, and anybody who listens to me, I know what Trump is all about, and he ain't that bowl of grits and what his job is. So I have never supported him, and they know that. So I'm telling you what it was. I'm telling you what it was when I went there.
Got you. And I haven't been in. I don't think I've never stayed there. I've only passed through via the airport. It is what it is, and
it is. Yeah.
My thing is, and I actually had something, and I was debating on whether or not to even share it tonight because it's gonna piss some men off, and I'm hoping they don't take it that way. But if you do, oh well, because if it doesn't apply to you, then you shouldn't be worried about it. But the point being, I'm trying to go with this is, I tell melanated people all the time, we have to take accountability for these conditions. And that's why I keep saying, sweep around your own doorstep. Now, I've lived in many neighborhoods. I've lived in, quote, quote, the suburban neighborhoods. I lived in, mixed neighborhoods with us. I've lived in neighborhoods with, us that are professionals. I've lived in what they consider semi-hood, and I'm going to tell you the mindset of the condition of the neighborhoods, it is definitely a mindset. Poverty is a mindset. I'm a fucking witness. I know what I'm saying because I literally lived in those neighborhoods and would get out my car with a garbage bag. I would keep motherfucking garbage bags in the back of my car. And when I go down the street and see trash, I kept trash bags in my car and my fucking disposable gloves. I would get out, pick up the trash, and tie an extra bag on like the tree or by the bus stop to encourage people to pick up behind themselves. And I would literally email the city of Atlanta and get on the council person and tell them this is fucking unacceptable. When I turn the corner on my street, God damn it, I don't want to see trash. This is unacceptable. And I told people in the neighborhood it is unacceptable. And just by me, and me and my mom would do this on a regular basis, people started keeping that street up. There was some abandoned projects around the corner where some developers had bought the fucking property for dirt cheap. And then when the housing market crashed, they didn't do anything with that. And then down the street, they let some other land go into foreclosure, so it was overgrown. I got on the city's ass. Get off your motherfucking dead ass and keep it cut. I don't give a goddamn about none of that. Keep it cut. And matter of fact, I asked the city to allot some of the land for the neighborhood to do a community garden. Okay. Now, I'm no longer in that area, but I saw a article in a publication. That same neighborhood, they took those abandoned projects and they turned the entire acreage, and I forget how many acreage it is, into a food forest for the neighborhood. And the neighborhood can come there and get free fruits and vegetables. So it's literally a food forest community garden. So what I am saying, it is a mindset. My parents grew up in the projects in fucking Chicago. The projects was not dirty back then. People took pride in their fucking stoops. Literally, they kept their doorstep clean. Flowers out. Big Mama was able to sit out on the motherfucking stoop. Whole court. These are the things that I'm talking about. Melanated people sweep around your own doorstep. Now, are there conditions? Yeah. Number one, we shouldn't be in those conditions. Don't think that I'm justifying the fucked up system and the stealing of land. I'm not justifying any of that. Do not for one bit I am justifying that, because that is being dealt with. But on the other hand, you, as indigenous to the land, as the oldest to Mother Earth, the planet, you have a responsibility. And it is unacceptable to live in these conditions, create the conditions in some cases, or your stinking ass, the children, grandbabies, the motherfuckers rotten and rancid, your baby daddy, whoever the fucking case may be, you let that fucked up behavior slide. We should need the police to roll through our shit to keep our folks in line. We know who doing the motherfucking killing. We know these things. That's why I keep saying sweep around your own doorstep. Because, again, I don't need Trump, stomp, lump, no motherfucking body to tell me how to conduct myself. These are basic things. So, yeah, that whole Baltimore thing, I don't want to even hear that bullshit because it runs deep. And Baltimore is not the only place. We have plenty of places across the Americas that are run down. And I don't give a damn if you live in the po, it's a po. Having trash laying around, crime infested, preying on your own people. That's the shit that disgusts me. Now, you're not going to take that motherfucking crime over into the rich neighborhoods, but you're going to prey on your own people. But we allow these things to happen. This is accountability across the fucking board. I'm getting in melanated people's shit, my people's shit, as well as Caucasians and anybody else. Nobody gets a fucking pass. Bottom line. So I'm sorry, sis. Go ahead.
No, I mean to tell you that they can't just excuse it, just like you said. I mean, it's fact. It's fact. And the Sharptons and the rest of those people who's standing up there, you know, he's a child, he's a this. No, you're the child because you don't have enough sense to know you're in trouble, obviously. Why would anybody want to live in that kind of place? And then
exactly.
The person's not taking care of it.
Exactly.
And then you go down there to the border and try to get all sympathetic by somebody else that don't even belong here. That's crazy.
Right. Start with cleaning up your own motherfucking shit first. Because me personally, like I told the city, I'm not going to step out of my motherfucking door and see trash. You got me all the way fucked up. So just like you keep the other neighborhoods clean, goddammit, I expect the same here.
Right.
It is our responsibility.
You know, I really want to say that they have so many beautiful communities that's not ours. And they have tree-lined places, it's not ours. And we got slums, and we need to wake up.
And it does not have to be that way, and I don't want to hear it's the ghetto. I am one fucking generation removed from the projects. Chicago projects. And my parents didn't grow up like that, nor did they raise their children like that, so I don't want to fucking hear the excuses. Clean up your own doorstep.
That's right.
So,
that's right.
I'm sorry. All right, Brother Sean, you have any go ahead on with the fuckery?
Yeah, I guess I do. Do you know, after last week when we was talking about how they had after the money? Do you know I heard about 3 different people explaining why they should get paid?
It don't surprise me.
I mean, this shit is just crazy. I mean, if you're supposed to be on your spiritual shit, why the fuck you keep talking about money?
Yep.
I mean,
yep.
Please explain this on your next video. I mean, y'all so much in the know, and y'all so powerful, so spiritual, so capable of manifesting. Manifest something without PayPal. manifest something.
I know that's right.
I mean, this shit, it's crazy. I mean, we at war, and they know this. But
right.
Obviously, from the stance they taken, we know whose side they are. You still trying to have people focus on money, and you're allegedly going to help them.
And
some of them, I gotta admit, they tell people to go within and still ask them for money. But if a motherfucker telling you that everything you need is within, and you still give him money to tell you something beyond that, that's why they doing it to your punk ass. You deserve it. That's by consent. Just like all the rest of this fuckery that's going on is by consent. You think it's the way that things have to be. Like, this person knows everything and got the key to everything. They know everything. When you see this black ass at ever take? Have you seen him fly? Did he shape shift? What do you do other than talk to you? What?
Right. Well, he can't manifest that fiat, can he? Because if he could, he wouldn't be asking them. I'm just saying. He or she.
Right. Exactly. Right. Because we know it's, damn, I guess damn their whole city full of. But,
yeah,
that and, that Baltimore thing, why ain't nobody explaining where them billions of dollars went? Why they hollering racist? Where the money?
Exactly. Where that money at?
That money was supposed to be for you dumbasses who upset. It was supposed to have been helping y'all. Y'all gets none of that money. Y'all live there. You see what you going through.
Yep.
No matter what state you in, if you in the hood, you see what the fuck going on.
Sure do.
And just about every goddamn hood has a Democratic representative, just about.
Yep.
And they black. And you keep voting they black asses in, and you get the same shit, and the only thing you can think about is racism.
Yep.
Why you ain't calling that nigga out on his shit?
Exactly.
That's the nigga keep lying to you. Why you ain't calling him out on his shit?
Right.
How much time do they spend in the hood?
Yep.
They don't even live in the hood. But they represent you.
And they won't live in the hood.
Right.
Yep.
And you're right.
This for all their leaders, though. Whether you talking about in the quote-unquote conscious community, them niggas get that go up and move. They don't stay around you niggas no more. That's why y'all pay so much to see them when they put on a goddamn show. Because you don't see them niggas all the time.
Yep.
If you saw a nigga all the time, you ain't gonna pay to go see him. I just seen that nigga at the store yesterday. The fuck I'm gonna go pay to see that nigga for? See that nigga all the time.
Saw him at the store today. Yep, at the bodega. The corner store. Yep.
But I digress.
Excellent point. And that's why I say poverty pimps. We love a show. We absolutely love a show, love drama, because it's escapism.
Right.
Because it takes work. It takes motherfucking work. And you have to be real with your goddamn self. To look yourself in the mirror and say, I got to get my shit together. I don't give a fuck what's going on around me. I have to get my shit together first and then get my household together.
Mhm.
That's what being real is about. And until folk are ready to do that, you just bullshitting yourself. I don't give a fuck how many candles you burn, how much sage you burn, how many motherfucking crystals you carry, how many motherfucking YouTube videos you watch, lectures you listen to, books you read. If you can't look self in the mirror and know that you are doing for self and clean up your own household, you're bullshitting yourself. You are your savior. As the sister so eloquently put, the Messiah means message. Not no one coming out no cloud. I don't want to hear none of that shit about no star family stepping down to save our monk asses. Jesus, Muhammad, Allah, this one, that one, this one, that one. No. You have to get your shit together. As a collective, we created this reality, meaning the melanated ones. So I don't want to hear nothing about the Caucasians with the white people done. Yeah, we know that's a separate issue, and that'll be dealt with. But in the meantime, how did we get to this position? What can you do to change it? It starts with you. You create the reality you want.
Right.
And you can't control your fucking self. How you going to control your household? If you can't control your household, how you going to control your block? How you going to control your neighborhood? How you going to, quote, quote, run a nation? You niggas are delusional. Seriously. Get your own together. Sorry, go ahead, sis.
You know, the place that we went to was the place that was the most tore up. Is the people with the Moors who's trying to get their identity. And I'm looking at that place like, are you serious? This is your identity? And then go out there and tell everybody else that you're free and all that kind of stuff. You're living in bondage here. There's nothing free about living in junk.
Exactly.
So anyway, yeah,
exactly.
It's sad. People take that race
package.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's the race card. Then you got the other hustle of the paperwork. And let the sister look. I don't give a fuck about none of that. Get your shit together. If you are who you say you are, that means you can change the conditions. It starts in the mind. Everything happens through consciousness. You manifest in the spiritual world first. It's time to grow up.
Right. It is. That's a good word. Grow up.
These are not little baby child-ass games that we're playing with these fucking fairy tales. Grow up. You are the indigenous people of this land. Grow the fuck up. This bullshit is low level. It's beneath really all of us.
Mm-hmm.
And especially melanated people. You should be fucking disgusted to the core of your stomach for someone to tell you you have to pay to live on something natural. You should be fucking disgusted to the core of your soul.
Mm-hmm.
So either grow up or get purged off this motherfucker. And if you don't believe it, what happened to the giants? What happened to the Neanderthal? You all think this shit is a fucking joke? You don't think you can be purged off of here? Keep bullshitting and not adapt and be in harmony. That's exactly what the fuck is happening. You're going to be purged off. You, the rats, the roaches, all of that shit. It's out of here. So, very, very, very good point. Now, I'm going to go on and share this article. Now, again, I'm going to say, because I don't, want no fuck shit, but if you bring the fuck shit, that's on you. If this doesn't apply to you, then your feelings should not be hurt. But this was a very powerful article that a sister posted on Facebook. And it's off of MadameNoire.com. Madame Noire, Noire.com. And it came out, it came out yesterday. It says, Black women can no longer afford to save broken Black men. I struggle with the title of this article. I consider the polarity of the words I intended to use and thought that maybe just this one, the situation called for a disclaimer. But the more I allowed the piece to manifest, the more I felt the title needed to be as raw as the reality. Not for the sake of luring readers with consciousness camouflaged as controversy, but because I'm in the business of coddling people from their truth, especially Black men. The truth is that Black women have lived in a perpetual state of fear and fantasy for long. Black women have carried an sometimes unexplainable loyalty to Black men, even when that loyalty has cost us our lives. And all Black women have all but verbally committed to being a refuge for Black men. For the sake of our survival, we can no longer afford to do so. Women like Sadie Roberts Joseph, educator, community organizer who dedicated to serving the African American community through the veins of her second home, Baton Rouge, Louisiana, come to mind. Miss Sadie championed for her community, starting a nonprofit organization, Community Against Drugs and Violence, to further the reach of her youth advocacy. Her most impactful contribution, the Baton Rouge Odell S. Williams Then Museum of African American History, the first and only museum dedicated to the preservation of African and American history in the city. When police identified the body of the beloved community leader stuffed into the trunk of her vehicle and abandoned just 3 miles from her home, the community jumped at the assumption that Miss Sadie was targeted for her fight against white supremacy and systematic injustice. It made sense that the people she targeted with her activism would make her target of their violence. It didn't make sense that she would fall victim to the very people she risked her life to serve. According to a study by the Violence Policy Center, 9 out of 10 Black women murdered by men are murdered by men they know. In instances where the relationship could be determined, 91% of Black female homicide victims knew their killers. Miss Sadie being no exception to that statement. Black female homicide victims were most often killed during the course of an argument or disagreement. like Mary Unique Spears, 27-year-old mother of three, who was shot and killed outside of a funeral reception in Detroit after arguing with a man who became enraged at her refusing his advances. Black women are killed by black men at a 3 times higher rate than that of white women killed by white men. And while white men appear to be the standard black men measure their behavior against, and this is Rhonda, and you should be a motherfucking ashamed of yourself, and that's including melanated women too, to be measuring yourself against them. Anyway, like when conversations about R. Kelly turn into pity parties about how white men get to be pedophiles with impunity. This particular comparison seems to never make the docket. Not only do black women find themselves being killed by men they know, but most often by men they've extended themselves to, by men who've come to them after exhausting all other resources, having the expectation that these women will meet their needs in some empathetic way. Men like Ron Jermaine Bell, 38-year-old convicted child rapist who served a 7-year sentence in connection to aggravated rape of an 8-year-old girl. As a registered sex offender with restrictions on where he could live, work, and socialize, Bell relied on the existential goodness of people to overlook his crime and recognize his humanness. Had it not been for Miss Sadie allowing Bell to rent an apartment in one of her properties, Bell would have likely struggled to secure housing while branded by his scarlet letter. But Miss Sadie chose compassion. If only that same luxury had been afforded her. I'm sorry, go ahead, sis.
No, I'm just fussing. Sorry.
Okay. All right. What Miss Sadie and many black women fail to realize is that you cannot help people who are committed to hurting, whether that's hurting other people or hurting themselves. Black women are socialized to see mistreatment from others as an obstacle, not an omen. We're raised seeing our brothers and cousins coddled through their dysfunction while we receive tips on how to best cope with it later. We create generation of black women who feel obligated to repair broken black men, so much so that many see self-preservation as abandonment or disloyalty. So much so that we will continue to implore one another to hold a black man down, even if that means we're held down in the process, just so we can brag on our unwavering, unequipped support that has garnered us nothing in return. Jacqueline Smith, a 54-year-old electrical engineer, supported her 52-year-old husband of 4 years, Keith Smith, despite his string of armed robberies that cost him 12 years of freedom and earned him a felony conviction. She supported Smith and his adult daughter financially, according to the family, provided him with a very lavish lifestyle. And on December 1st, 2018, when Keith Smith stabbed his wife to death in front of her vehicle, he would point to that very same generosity as the cause of her death, misleading the public to believe Smith was killed while giving money to panhandlers. Despite Smith's giving nature, she aligned herself with a man who only knew how to take from her, eventually costing her her life. Black women can no longer afford to rescue wounded black men. Yes, some of us eventually pay with our lives, but these interactions have cost us so much more in the interim. We're not just rescuing our attendees. We're rescuing our brothers, our fathers, our downtrodden male friends. Where we are who they call when they need a place to crash. We are who they call when they need a couple of dollars until payday. We are who they call when the people they abandoned us for turn their back. We are who they call when the rest of humanity is refusing to recognize the value of their lives. We are always who black men call when they've been wounded. Why is it that black women are everyone's first pick for savior, but worthy to no one of being saved? We're just as disfranchised as our male counterparts, serving a parallel sentence in this country of our kidnapping, but whatever. Why aren't we worthy of the support that is demanded of us? If this is the trajectory we're going to continue to head down, one where we knowingly risk our lives for bragging rights and close call survival stories, ignoring the red flags and warning signs while cutting ourselves trying to piece together other people's shards, I want off the ride. Black women, at that point, we have to choose life, our own. And regardless of the social backlash that comes with saying my survival is more important than your rehabilitation, it needs to be said repeatedly because it's true. Prior to the arrest of Ron Jeremy Bell, black men responded to the death of Miss Sadie Roberts Joseph with rage. There was talk of protest and retribution, anything to the assumed white supremacist responsible for her death brought to justice. But when Baton Rouge police announced they arrested Bell, an African-American man, for suspicion of the murder of Miss Sadie Roberts Joseph, black men responded with dismissal and denial. They went from being fully behind law enforcement to questioning their motives. They diverted energy and attention to baseless conspiracies, arguing that she was killed by the United States government to keep her from opening her museum, a museum she opened almost 20 years ago. It wasn't that fiction was more believable than fact. It was that acknowledging the facts surrounding Miss Sadie's death would require a level of accountability that coddling men do not possess. And men who lack accountability lack the capability for change. With that said, if we do not disrupt the pattern on our end, discontinue the buffet of unconditional support and sacrifice, we cannot expect people who are intentional of emptying us to suddenly decide they've had their fill. Black women are worth protecting, worth preserving, and certainly worth saving. Who better equipped to save us than ourselves? So again, that was off of the website, Madame Minor, and the name of the article is Black Women Can No Longer Afford to Save Broken Black Men. So I don't have anything else to say on it. It just ties into what we just talked about. So I'll pause in case Brother Sean or Sis, you have something to put on it. If not,
I have just a little bit. You know,
sure thing, Sis.
We always excuse our men for doing crimes. We say it's the slavery that did it to us, and most of us weren't even ever enslaved. So we keep reaching back and bringing it forward and using that as our excuse for bad behavior. They said it's because we can't get a job, but most of us don't even want to try. So they don't even want to even go to school to get an education, even finish high school to get a job, you know. So, and they know the lay of the land. The lay of the land is you have to have an education. You got to do da-da-da-da-da-da-da if you want to eat. Or they won't take responsibility and even put food in the garden. If you don't want to go to school, you can go outside and plant a garden, bring food to the house. They don't do that either. So what do you do except for point the finger at one person in front of you? You got 3 or 4 fingers pointing back at you. And that is our problem, that we as melanated females have been brainwashed with the idea that slavery was our problem, and we're the ones who run this joint. We're the ones who own this place. We're the ones who was here first.
Exactly.
And so the educational system has bent us to believe that poor me is our model. And we should not still be believing that. If you're listening to this kind of show, you're listening to our brothers telling you who you are, this should never be your motto ever again. Poor me.
Agreed. Because it's a mindset, and like I've been saying, those titles that we place upon ourselves come with a spiritual curse that manifests into your physical reality.
Exactly.
So you put the curse on yourself that you are a former slave. You're putting the curse on yourself that you are poor. That manifests into your physical reality. Okay, and then that keeps perpetuating the excuses for the bad behavior. And that's across the board, because, you know, melanated women, you shouldn't be putting up with that bullshit. Let's start there.
Exactly.
You shouldn't be putting up with the fuck shit.
And then when they turn back on you, they're not turning back on you to say thank you for what you did. They say if it wasn't for you, I would have been better. You're the one they'll kill. You're the one they'll steal from. You're the one they'll rape. But yet, you've held their hands for years and let them use excuses for bad behavior.
Right, and that's the issue, because it is a cyclical cycle. And as I've stated before you can bring any other quote races into the mix, you sit that motherfucking shit aside, because that is a down the way effect. Before that came into play, there was only melanated people. And then the mixing of these different bloodlines with other fucked up agendas, and the warring against women on this planet, because the first war was woman against man, man against woman, and that was a melanated thing. And the planet kept falling in vibration ever since the woman was dethroned. And we can't put it on the Caucasian race, because like I keep saying, and you know the motherfucking receipts prove it, their rulership coming to later date. So don't give me that shit that the disrespect of women came with colonization, came with enslavement. That's bullshit. It started way before then. And when a man does not, or anyone for that matter, if you don't honor your mother, who are you really? And I'm going to go a step further and say, if you can't honor your mother, if you can't honor the vessel that brings forth this physical world, you don't fucking deserve to be in it. And that's why I said a couple of shows before, if you brothers motherfucking think That we going to continue this cycle with this fuck shit? Having babies in this fucked up environment? So you think you can reclaim some kingdom? I am telling you, mark my motherfucking word again. It'll never happen. We shut it down. It's done. It is done. The high vibrational beings are not even physically being born in this realm. We're shutting it down. Souls that are being born are being recycled. This is the shit I'm talking about across the board, sweeping around your own motherfucking doorstep, holding each other accountable. This is unacceptable. From the melanated men, totally fucking unacceptable. Those of you that fit this bill, those of you brothers that know brothers with that fucked up attitude, that fucked up behavior, and you let they ass slide. You're wrong. Sisters who keep hugged up with these no good motherfuckers, having children, recycling other souls, you're fucking wrong. You are supposed to be the mother of civilization. And I am telling you, all of your asses are going to be held accountable. Nobody gets a pass, especially melanated people. You want to talk about the Caucasians? You want to talk about everybody else? I am telling you, your ass is on the line deep because you are the oldest. You know better. And no more excuses. I'm not stroking no egos, none of that. Fuck you. Get your shit together or you get purged. So I'll yield. Sorry, in case y'all got something else to put on it. Just fucking disgusting. Go ahead, Brother Sean.
The thing is, as far as for the perspective of crime, where a lot of our brothers with that spirit went wrong at, they wasn't robbing hood, they started robbing the hood.
The hood, yep.
And that's where they fucked up at.
Yep.
We've had other people taking from us constantly and continue to take from us. But the biggest culprits are our own people.
Yep.
Most crimes are a crime of convenience with our people. Most of them are too lazy to plot or plan anything of any significance. You robbing your own people, where if you go in the suburbs, these people don't even have curtains up. Paintings and stuff, I mean, you see what they got. And what do? You don't think about none of that good stuff. You want to take something from somebody that's struggling like you are. Or maybe even worse than you are.
Worse than you,
They're out here bitching and complaining about it. They're trying to change their circumstances. And not by getting over on their own people. And then when motherfuckers go to jail, they want people to support them there, too.
Put something on your book.
My book.
Nigga, if you don't get off my motherfucking line, don't write me no motherfucking letter, none of that shit.
It's not like you in there because you was hitting out for your people.
Exactly.
You was hitting on your people.
Exactly.
So, I mean, there's a lot of karma that's going to have to be atoned for
Oh,
Period.
absolutely.
So I mean, like you said, point the finger at pointing the finger at children. That's the way I'll describe those other beings.
Yeah, because they're younger beings. Absolutely.
So I mean,
But they walk around saying they're God, though. Let's not forget that. You're God, and we rule ancient civilization. Oh, okay then.
But who taught them children that stuff that they know?
Exactly.
Who taught them how to manipulate the laws and the utilization of language and spells?
Exactly.
So I mean, true enough, they have to atone for what they did.
Right.
But those who taught them and went along with this,
That's right.
it's going to be worse.
That's right. Your ass going to be handed to you. Absolutely.
And you have no one to blame or to thank but you.
Exactly. And don't think you can't be purged because your skin is melanated. Don't motherfucking think that you can't. Because you will be and you are.
Bye-bye.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Now, interestingly enough, I know I've said this before. This is shout out to my millennials, to my Generation Zs, and I'll get back to that in a second. This is coming from the Generation Xer. I told you all, I see you, I get it, and you know, I know a lot of people want to come down on millennials and you know, the generational Zs, but I see it in a different light. Yes, you do have some that's disrespectful, lost, woo-woo, this, that, and the third, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. But then you have to look at it on the flip side. Who are their parents? Okay, so when you point the finger at them, you better take inventory and stock on how they were raised by the Generation Xers. Okay, so I also see a lot of these millennials and Generation Zs. I told y'all before, if y'all don't think this shit is over, all you have to do is look at them. Because, as they say, no fucks are given in those generations. They are not going to uphold this system. They don't give a fuck about you trying to tell them how their sexuality should be. They don't give a fuck about you talking about some working some 9 to 5. I am telling you, if you're depending on them, you gonna motherfucking starve to death because they ain't finna do it. I've been saying this for years. So I'm minding my business. Ran across an article, Forbes magazine. This came out May 20th. Deloitte's Global Millennial Survey exploring a generation disrupted. Disruption can be a positive thing, advancing business and enhancing the world around us. But it also can have a downside, especially for those who began coming of age during the global economic recession a decade ago. The latest Deloitte Global Millennial Survey shines a light on the human toll taken by years of societal discord, technological transformation, and economic insecurity. For the past 8 years, Deloitte Global has looked inside the minds of millennials to better understand what makes them tick. We've also began to survey members of Generation Z to see if or how the youngest employees and consumers differ from their predecessors. We look for trends, sure, but are equally interested in discovering morsels of data that Deloitte clients might find surprising. There were plenty of those morsels in this year's survey results. Even some of the trends were unexpected. For instance, the percentage of millennials who believe the economic situation in their countries will improve during the coming years was 45% each of the past two surveys. This year, it plummeted to 26%. So, in other words, 75% was like, this shit is fucked up. It ain't coming back. 75% now. Hope that the social/political climate will get better is even more scarce. Just 22% believe it will, down from a third last year. So 22% of them will believe the social and political climate will change. So like I told y'all, these babies, they see the bullshit for what it is. These recycled souls, and good motherfucking for them, they don't want to come back to the fuck shit. They're not interested. Millennials' opinion about business also continued to trend downward. After 4 straight years in the 70s and a drop to 61% in 2018, the number of respondents who said business has a positive impact on the wider scale wider society fell to just 55%. And more millennials than ever, 49%, would, if they had a choice, quit their current job in the next 2 years. In our 2017 report, that number was 38%. So 50% of them said they would walk up off that bitch today. Now, these are the millennials and generational Zs, y'all. I want that to fucking sink in. But yet, you got people pissed and upset about some political shit over in Baltimore with all the motherfucking old heads. But you want to look down on the millennials. I think they got it right. These results speak to a group that's troubled, disillusioned, and dissatisfied. Okay, so in other words, because these babies ain't buying into the motherfucking program, they're shutting the program down. They're delusional. That's especially concerning when you consider millennials and Gen Zs make up more than half the world's population and together account for most of the global workforce. They can make or break entire enterprises. And right now, they're not thrilled with much at all. There were several other head-turning findings contained in this year's report. Among those most compelling, they prioritize experiences over traditional success markers. More millennials said they want to travel and see the world, 57%, than own homes, 49%. They also are more attracted to making a positive impact in their community or society, 46%, than in having children and starting families, 36%. Financial constraints clearly are altering or delaying life-changing decisions. They have trust issues. More than a quarter of millennials express zero trust in the media as a reliable source of information. And 43% said traditional media is negatively impacting the world. This begs the question of who do they trust to help them form opinions and make decisions. Now, I just found that fucking fascinating. You pissed at the millennials and Gen Zs because they see through the bullshit, and then you basically want to know who's helping them form their opinions and make decisions. Motherfucker, they don't need your help. That shit is over with. So again, shout out to the millennials and the Gen Zs. You got it right. Hint, it's not political or faith leaders whose no trust numbers each hover around 45%. So in other words, they scratching their motherfucking head. Well, who they listen to? Who are they listening to? Nobody. Themselves.
You know what?
Sorry, go ahead,
Brenda,
sis.
that was some of their Russian probe problem. If they would look at the statistics that these children, the Gen X's and X, whatever, millennials, have already started pulling back from the your favorite word, and they've already started making their decisions. We didn't need Russia to help us.
Oh, you mean with the election?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They already making up their minds this is a bunch of crud.
Exactly. They have a love/hate relationship with social media. 71% of millennials feel positive about their personal use of digital devices and social media, but 41% wish they could stop using it completely. Nearly two-thirds, 64%, said they would be physically healthier if they reduced the time spent on social media, and 6 in 10 said it would make them happier. They speak with their wallets. Millennials and Gen Zs in general will patronize and support companies that align with their true values. Conversely, about a third said they have stopped or lessened business relationships because of a company's ethical behavior, and more than a quarter of millennials said they've backed away from organizations because of their positions on political matters. Data collected and privacy concerns also impact their buying decisions. This year's survey does not paint a rosy picture, but it does provide clues for leaders who seek to capture the hearts and minds of our younger generation. Above all, millennials and Gen Z want all of the talk business give to purpose to become meaningful action, and for business leaders to serve as agents for positive change, both as employers and commercially. Those who can make the future brighter for these generations stand to have the brightest future themselves. So again, this article was out of Forbes magazine, May 20th of this year. Deloitte's Global Millennial Survey exploring a generation disrupted. Okay, so shout out again to the millennials and generational Zs. Now, I'm going to once again remind the family it is no accident that they have named these generations these different things. So my generation, we're called Generation X. Okay, so you can look at X as the unknown. You can look at X as that mother gene, the mitochondriac, the oldest gene factor. That is why you have all of the superheroes, the X-Men, X-Files, all of that. Okay? The millennials, just as they said, the millennials represent the starting of the change of the new cycle, okay? Coming out of the dark ages, swinging back to the higher vibratory
age. All right? Generation Z, I want y'all to think about that. They're not just called Generation Z to be fucking called Generation Z. And there's also a Generation Y that they have out there. Z, and I want y'all to think about the letters in the alphabet. Z is the end. That's a fucking wrap. It's no coincidence that those generations, they're not for the foolishness. They give no fucks. It is being shut down. Those recycled souls that came back at this time or this age to clear up their karmic debt, they want no part of a dead system. They're not going to do it. They know we're not in the Pisces age, the age of religion. That's why they don't fuck with religion. They know that they have to raise their consciousness in order to ascend. They recycle back to do such, to become the high vibrational beings. So again, I'm going to say, when we talk about sweep around our own doorstep, us, the previous generation, the baby boomers, the generational X's, get your head out of your ass and get on your shit. This 3D stuff is gone. It's over with. You done had iterations to get your motherfucking shit together. So now this is truly cleanup time. Everything has moved on. The animals motherfucking moving on. The plants motherfucking moving on. Folks with higher consciousness have moved on. So again, this is a warning. It's speeding up faster and faster. As I shared that YouTube video last week with Maverick Star, I think the gentleman's name is. We're at the halfway point of a pole reversal. It's getting so deep, the motherfucking old-ass religious man, what's his name, y'all? Roberts. I don't know dude's first name. He even had a guest on his motherfucking religious show talking about a pole reversal. Level up your game from a consciousness perspective. You're not babies anymore. If you want to ascend, if you want to, quote, quote, survive. So I'll yield. Let me see. Brother 832, I see you, brother. Sister, Brother Shana, you have anything to put on it before I bring on Brother 832?
Yeah. The system has to go.
Yep.
They're coming here naturally aligned with that frequency.
Yep.
The only thing that's keeping this system alive is you dumb fucks.
Yep.
You getting what you ask for. You're getting what you accept. You're getting what you put out into the universe, thought-wise and action-wise. And you look to blame. Again, why or to blame when you're doing all the doing? you're not happy with this inevitable change,
Mm-hmm.
you won't really have to worry about it. You'll be gone.
That's true. It's true.
There's nothing you're going to have to worry about at all. So just sit down, relax, shut the fuck up, and wait for your shadow up out of here. I'm done.
So true. All right. Sis, you have anything before I bring on Brother 832?
Well, I just was, like I said, I was speaking to young people, one today and one Monday, and I'm really surprised how much they do know. Not what the people taught us, that junk, but what they do know. And I'm saying, you know all about that? Oh, yeah, we know. I know. Yeah. So they're right. Their generation is not coming back to play these games.
They're not having it.
No,
they're not having it.
And they whisper to me because we on the same frequency, and they say, I know you. I say,
yeah.
I like you.
Absolutely. Real recognizes real. And again, you know, me personally, I have nothing but love and respect to the millennials and the Gen Zs. I have not run into not one of them that has been disrespectful, and I'm talking even people that they claim are thugs or in the streets. People feel and see vibration, and they know who to respect and who to disrespect. Okay? And even the ones that's a demon, because a demon ain't going to come up against a motherfucking God. I'm going to say it again. A demon will not come up against a motherfucking God. So as the elders, we need to learn from the millennials and the Gen Zs, because no fucks are given. They want no parts of the system. They're not going to do it. Just by them alone, they will collapse the businesses across the world. That says a hell of a lot. So those of you that got grandiose dreams, that thinking melanated people gonna take over the system and revamp it, get your head out your ass. And even if you don't, that plasma, pull your head out your ass, because it's over. It's a wrap. I'm sorry, go ahead, sis.
I just saw an AT&T ticker where they were showing this beautiful rainbow that they were talking about in the sky. It was oranges and purples and pinks, and it was a strange phenomenon. And they were saying, "Oh, it's been crystal." And I said,
Right.
They're seeing these signs in the sky, and they're reporting it on mainstream media. I'm just sitting up there cracking up.
Yeah, because they're not going to be able to. They barely hiding it now. If enough folk were paying attention, they would have no choice but to address it. But like I said, it is getting better and better, because for me to just hear common folks talk about, well, you know, you don't have to worry about purchasing no beachfront property because everything's going. You're going to have beachfront property, and California's going to break off. I was just sitting there with my mouth wide open like, wow, these common folks, oh, okay. It's speeding up because the planet's vibration, Mother's vibration is speeding more and more up as those poles move. So if you are not getting it, that means you are not supposed to be here during the flip over. That's the reality of it.
And people are complaining about their hearts acting crazy.
Yes. Yeah.
It's amazing. I mean, everything that's when we were talking about is happening.
Yep. And we've been telling them it's coming, so now it's here. Absolutely. Let me bring on brother 832.
Yeah, let me shut up so I can talk.
Hey, brother. Peace and love. Your line is open, 832.
Rhonda! Sandra! My sisters from other misters! Feathers up!
Feathers up.
Molesters and pedophiles down! Shine!
Indeed.
My brother from another mother sitting on Mount Olympus throwing them black lightning bolts down tonight.
Indeed,
How's the crew feeling? How's the crew feeling?
We are well. We are well, brother. Good to hear your voice.
Let me put the context of all that conversation as the civil rights movement, or excuse me, the silver rights movement. You know that MLK has a sex file that the FBI is going to drop. I'm going to just let that dangle out there for a second. While they paper over JFK's peccadillos, indiscretions, Marilyn Monroe, RFK, orgies, three ways, whatever. Okay. Now, so there's innuendo on dead men. All right. So now, Me Too, or Time's Up, or anything that we want to discuss as far as and I saw that article, by the way, Madame Noir in passing, and there was another. I don't know if you got that on the news feed. If you got that on the news feed, there was a sort of a companion article. A lot of times that get clicked, that you click through to. But anyway, I'm sympathetic. I'm 100% and probably in agreement in what the perspective is being put out as far as matriarchy versus patriarchy. But I don't want to fall into that trap. What I want to say is
right.
Let's look at this dynamic, for example. A lot of people don't realize that. Are you familiar with the actual story, the backstory of Martin Luther King Jr. being picked by the congregation to head up Dexter Avenue Baptist Church? Are you familiar with the Vernon John story? You may or may not have seen the movie that was James Earl Jones portrayed him.
I heard of the backstory. I didn't see the movie, but please do share with the family.
Yeah, well, you were in the ATL. I just was wondering whether or not, you were actively involved or aware of it. But essentially, in a nutshell, he was kind of a sharecropping, coverall-wearing, good old boy preacher that would sell watermelons out the back of his truck in the parking lot of the church. Now, of course, the congregation sniffed, looked down their nose, and poo-pooed him and all this kind of thing. So what did they go and do? They go hire the polished young Negro from Boston University, right? I mean, he was 26 years of age when he was propped up and put out in front of the Montgomery bus boycott. I am not dismissing or diminishing any of the efforts of the work that this man did.
No, tell the truth. It's about the truth. Tell the truth.
I would stress that people don't seem to understand those children that filled the jail cells during the course of that 381-day boycott were 12 to 15 years of age.
Tell it.
Most ignorant Negroes who are supposed benefactors, the beneficiaries, the ones who have reached the integration pinnacle, Booker, Kamala, Obama, Nation, whatever, again, do not seem to understand that simple fact that I'm saying. That's first and foremost. Those were literally children inhabiting the jail cells, flooding and overflowing throughout the South. So when you put that in context, it's not to say that the parents were cowards. They were hardworking people who had to then bail their own children out. It's not to say that the house Negroes were sellouts. because there were actual, you remember the movie The Help? Those
Yes.
actual maids and domestics were the backbone of financing the church, who was sending the young people out as soldiers. You see, but we don't discuss the story that way. You know, Rosa Parks was not a tired, the reason why I keep pointing out the female aspect,
you do you.
Of this movement is that she was like number 3 or 4. If I'm not mistaken, the immediate young woman before her was a pregnant teen at 16. And they thought that was going to be a negative connotation on the movement at large. What people don't understand about Rosa Parks, she was the executive secretary of E.D. Nixon, whose name, by the way, is never mentioned in organizing and the strategy of the entire, and I'm saying this for a very extremely important point, for people who are just, like you just said, but got their head in their ass. And I'm talking about black, white, polka dot, whomever.
Yeah.
All right. 381 days. See, I was born in Birmingham, okay? On my 5th birthday, those 4 girls who were the contemporaries of Condoleezza Rice, by the way, who was also born in Birmingham as I am, as Angela Davis, the firebrand, also born in Birmingham. That's why I'm going to repeatedly point out women, all right? These 4 little girls do not become women, do not bear children, do they?
Nope.
These children are the spear, the tip of the spear of the civil rights movement. I will put the most personified baby, the 14-year-old Emmett Till, who in 1955, his infamous burial sparked not just the movement, or what we love to call Rosa Parks, the mother of the civil rights. If you have actually bothered to hear her words, she said that baby's burial spawned the urgency, even though she never ever bore children personally.
Right.
So I guess that's why we bestow this moniker, the mother of the civil rights movement. But again, this mythology of her feet was tired, and she refused to get up out of the seat. That's bullshit.
Yes, it is. It really is.
That's us doing a disservice to our own actual story, not his story, not his story, the actual factual. The woman had been a part of an organized effort to assault the policy of segregation and whites only. The other young women who were cast aside, most of them were single mothers, or you would say, and back in those days, in the 50s and the 60s, unwed, out of wedlock births. Okay, but didn't Jesse Jackson famously say that Mary, mother of Jesus, wasn't that what she was?
Yep.
If we're to believe the mythology, wasn't
she? She gets a pass, though.
Okay, all right. So, I'm not saying this is no way to be disingenuous or disrespect my women in our community. We are spawned and given birth through you. That will never change. That's a biological imperative. But as you stated with that article, again, remember, you give birth to me, so you should provide succor, comfort. I should be able to go to my mother, my grandmother, big mama, my auntie. That should be a given. Matter of fact, that's a natural course. What is the problem is, where is this toxic masculinity? Now, I'm not saying this to point blame at the white man, white supremacy, the Buck syndrome, Mandingo, and the breeding mechanism of a system, by the way, centuries old, of training a black man to be what? A breeder? A sperm donor? And after performing that act, what good are you till death? Manual labor? Menial at best? Not paid for 4 centuries. Again, this is not an excuse. I'm not laying an excuse. I'm saying from 1492 to 1992 is 500 years, right? In that time arc of so-called Columbus discovering me and mine on my own homeland, stealing it from me, the land itself, making me build it for his exclusive benefit. Isn't that what's being argued now about the Constitution and the Founding Fathers? Isn't that what's being slapped upside your head, oops, upside your head? Okay, so the preeminent movement amongst them right now is to go back and make what America great again. While they grab them by the P, right? That's from the pinnacle of the leadership of this insidious citadel of white supremacy. This is not to offer an excuse. That is to offer an objective analysis of the situation ahead. And as Sean has said, if the poison fruit that is born from the seed of white supremacy, which, by the way, is taking the melanated man and woman, dehumanizing them, and fabricating the nigger. That's the first commodity, the first product, the first capitalist tool that's made in America, right? Can we at least agree on that? Because when you took the Aboriginal or transported the African, whichever one it is that you want to claim that we are to be, what did the process of white supremacy do? Dehumanize a human being to create chattel, which by definition is a beast of burden, right? Isn't that what the so-called Merriam-Webster's dictionary claims? And then the labor from those individual persons, who, by the way, whose personhood still until the turn of 1900 was never acknowledged nor recognized by the Constitution, by the Supreme Court, or by Jim Crow, Black Codes, and all the other instituting societal structures, federal, state, and local, that from the first decade of 1900 to 1910, there were over 200 cases filed by our ancestors to reach the Supreme Court. Did you know that? And barely a dozen were raised to give what personhood status? The corporation. So even as recent as 100 years ago, the highest court in this nation, the laws of the land, the United States Constitution, utilizing the 3/5 compromise, correct? Has already said that the black man has what? No rights that the white man is bound to acknowledge nor recognize. Isn't that what's been instituted? Now, again, this is not an excuse. I am not describing an excuse. I am describing a fashioning of a behavior pattern. I will wrap this up with this. You got Netflix, right? Have you seen The Great Hack?
No, I almost watched it this weekend.
When you go through it's in a documentary that goes deep. I'm talking proctological exam up into Cambridge Analytica, Facebook.
I started to watch
and
it
the
this
alleged
weekend
influence
and didn't.
of the Russians in the 2016 election. Now, I'll give you just little tidbits here to wet your whistle, and you go and, follow up on when you watch. This company's parent was SCL in Great Britain, who was a defense contractor that actually did PSYOPs, my sister. They showed a timeline straight leading up to Brexit, backwards to 1994, and wait till you see they populate the map worldwide about how they did all these manipulative tactics on affecting and influencing elections of countries around the world, to then culminate with a successful campaign of Brexit, and then show a direct line of connection from Brexit to Donald John Trump's campaign to become elected in 2016. Do you know the CEO of this company acted like it was goddamn it either chemotherapy or radiation on his ass whenever a discussion was brought up about Brexit? He vociferously denied having anything to do with it, which of course now they have broken out secret email communications and undercover videos and audio tapes. And then the direct connection and showing, of course, you know that Trump always loves to have photo ops with everybody as long as he's in the center of the picture. Of how this Cambridge Analytica, who, by the way, their logo is, have you ever seen brain mapping? It doesn't look like an actual brain. It looks more like intersecting lines, what they might call a lattice, you know, whatever, which would be connecting points of like the brain synapses and the neurons that would attach them. That was the logo of Cambridge Analytica. Now, dare to hazard a guess who was the major investor in creating this monstrosity that's whole purpose is behavioral development and pattern control. The reincarnation of Darth Vader, Stephen Bannon, who, by the way, came from Goldman Sachs, and you know made his multi-millions on being a Hollywood film producer. Now this is the most arch-conservative individual in the Republican sphere of influence, who made his money by Goldman Sachs, which is the golden goose that has produced almost every Secretary of Treasury back to almost
pretty much.
Nixon.
Pretty much.
And then he's gone into Babylon, literally in the belly of the beast, is Hollyweird, is it not? And made his fortune. So he knows the Epstein, despicable shit, the Harvey Weinstein, despicable shit, or whatever. It again shows how all of this is coming up, and it matters not that we pattern ourselves. You said that correctly, my sister. It is shameful, it is disgusting, and it is a deliberate result of the mind fuck that our people have from being in proximity to these demonic influences and forces. But at the end of the day, you're going to have to pay for your life, your choices. You stand before the bar, whatever you want to call it, Judgment Day, etc. And it's what you did, not what what was the old Flip Resin joke with Geraldine? The devil made me do it. And I yield.
All right, brother. All right. Peace and love. Good to hear your voice, brother. Okay. Thank you, brother 832. Thank you. Let me go to 310. I'm sorry, sis. Did you have something to put on it before I go to
just said peace and love. I mean, that was mind-boggling, blowing.
Indeed. And I'm glad he brought up about the documentary because literally I was going to watch it. And then when I read the description, he was talking about that Russian stuff. I'm like, I don't feel like fucking being bothered. But I'm going to look at it this weekend because you just put me in the mind of another article I was debating on whether or not reading it. So you just gave me confirmation that I need to read that article because it ties into what you were talking about, brother 832. So I'll have that for the family next week. Okay, let me go to 310. 310, your line is open. 310. Uh-oh. All right, I'm assuming you didn't mean to come on. I'm putting you back on mute, 310.
Oh, I do want to say, if they're going to bring out Martin Luther King's exploits, that ain't no surprise to the community that I know. A lot of people know that kind of stuff, so who they going to shock?
Well, like we say in the South, and everybody from the South, y'all motherfucking know what means. See, you're the California West Coast girls. Southern people, y'all know what means.
I love it.
he knocked it out of the park when he
did.
He's trying to put you all up on game about you thinking that whole civil rights movement was crafted one way when it was crafted another. And I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, he was posing with the Rothschilds, taking all awards from him. Martin Luther King was. So there's where his loyalty lied. Laid. Whatever the word is for that.
Right.
That process. It was a process,
right.
And he took
Absolutely.
credit for what he didn't do. But,
I'm not going to take away all of his work, but I'm going to say this. You have to look at the association of people. So that means I want you to even look beyond the color aspect, and I want you to start thinking on the point of looking at the societies, the secret societies that these folks are associated with.
Exactly.
All you got to look at is the way the universities they went to, look at their jewelry, look at some of their clothing, and it's going to tell you the story. Okay?
And you could look at these movements now, the big
Absolutely.
movements. And who's financing those people? And
exactly.
People getting financed by the undercover folks.
Absolutely. And we've gone over this before, even as, everybody talk about the Black Panthers of the 60s, and you have to enter and understand that it was a lot of informants in that organization as well. Okay? So everything that we think was a movement was orchestrated. And Brother 832 knocked it out the park because, again, the babies were the ones in that early civil rights movement that were going to jail. And once it started getting traction, that's when a lot of the other people came on board. Okay? Every movement, because when folks are playing checkers, they're playing chess. And you're not even supposed to be playing chess. I done said that before. You're supposed to be looking above the board. Because as long as you stay on that board, I don't give a fuck if you playing checkers. You playing checkers, that means you're in the 95% that are, quote, quote, sleep. If you playing chess, depending on where you are on the board, moves you to the 1%, to the 10%, to the 5%. But let's be clear, both of them fucking boards are the matrix. You're not supposed to be on either one. You're supposed to be above the boards, plural, watching the fuck shit and watching it destroy itself. And like I done said before, and I have to give a shout out to the one sister whose video I played about a month ago, who made it clear that we see the game. Do not think that melanated women and spiritual melanated women, don't think that we don't know what you fucking think you're going to do. You think that you want to give us that crown to keep your fuck shit going. It's not going to happen. They know that the energy and the age is shifting back to a matriarch. Okay? Their concern is not to let mother cleanse herself, let mother heal herself. So the consciousness of everyone can ascend and rise. Their concern is to crown melanated women of high spiritual level to keep the board games going. Same system underneath. And I am telling you, it's not going to happen. You're not going to use the quote, quote, matriarch, feminine divine for your fuck shit. We done already seen it. Because we wasn't on the board, boo-boo. We were not on the board. We didn't shut it down. So, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Sean.
Yeah. You have the matrix, and, of course, you have the rabbit hole,
yep.
which is much deeper and far more sinister.
Sure is. Sure is.
You can't observe what's going on this quantum chessboard if you deep down in the rabbit hole, digging in your ass.
Sure can't.
You're supposed to leave all that fuck shit to them.
Leave that fuck shit alone. You talking about playing in some motherfucking realms, doing this, doing that. God damn it, you should be tired of all of that fuck shit.
Also, the fact that
right.
these quote-unquote white boys like Neville Goddard, Alan Watts, and such, they was all talking this same spirituality shit that these niggas reselling to people.
Yep.
They've been telling you to go within.
Yep.
In their defense.
Yep,
in their defense.
Right.
They told the truth.
Yep.
Y'all didn't want to hear it. So some other niggas came along and sold it to you.
Yep.
And
so
the killer part about it,
too.
And you still don't get it because you still ain't tapped within. And neither have they.
Nope.
They don't have no need to tap within because you've taken care of them.
You taking care of them. That's right. You keeping
They're
them
working their magic.
Yep. Yep, they working you on that board. Absolutely. They working your monkey ass on that board or in that rabbit hole. Because if you too smart to be on the board, then you let some guru talk to you into the rabbit hole. So you like Alice in motherfucking Wonderland with the motherfucking crackheads, this, that, and the third lost, and you spend years worth of your time in the rabbit hole. Absolutely, Brother Sean. When it's time to grow up, like I said, this shit ain't complicated, none of that. It's up to you. If you like playing games, you know, like dibbling dabbing on boards and in the rabbit hole, that's your choice. But no, this is cleanup time. Absolutely. Okay, family. So we are going to get into the topic of the Lands of the Giants, Part 14. Now, Brother Sean sent me something. I'm telling you, y'all, we get so much information. We're trying to go through it as much as I can, and I still haven't even gotten to the book on the Giants in the Americas. But he sent me an excellent video from Medicine Man. This is YouTube channel Medicine Man. I highly, 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 highly recommend you subscribe to Medicine Man's channel. He has a lot of excellent information on his channel. I think he does an outstanding job in research. And now, you know, if you're going to get your motherfucking feelings hurt on a few things, it is what it is, because he gets raw sometimes on some things. But his research is impeccable. So this particular video, I forget. I want to say he put it out in 2016. And the title of it is The Rise of Western Civilization. Wait, let me get the exact title because I had to shorten it. It's The Rise of Western Civilization and World Dominance. And it totally ties in to our giant stuff. It ties into how I've been talking about different species that's on Mother Earth and how it's different bloodlines, et cetera, et cetera. So I had to take an excerpt because if you all are familiar with Medicine Man's work, you have to physically look at his video because most of it, he doesn't talk at all. He's giving you visuals with words. And so he's playing, and these two clips that I'm going to play, they are excerpts that he is pulling from something else. So this first one is 21 minutes. I'm going to play it, and then we're going to come back and chop it up. So again, this is off of Medicine Man's channel, YouTube channel. This is The Rise of Western Civilization and World Dominance. I'm only playing a snippet. I highly recommend you go look at the video in its entirety. So here we go.
This amazing book from the fragments of the Kawan. It's Middle Persian. So what this is the Book of the Giants. This piece that I'm reading to you was released by the Bulletin of the School of Oriental and African Studies in the University of London in 1943. The transcriptions of the original text have been omitted. So, Isaac de Beausoepre, or Huguenot, author of one of the best books ever written on Manichaeism, the critique of Manichae and Manichaeism, Amsterdam, 1734 to 1739, was the one to make the only sound suggestions on the sources used by Mani for the compilation of his Book of the Giants, the Book of Enoch, and then I can't read Greek, but which Kenan, a great-grandson of Noah, discovered lying in a field. The latter work has been identified by Alfaric with a book whose contents are briefly indicated in the Decretum Galasianum. So, this is called Liber de Ogia, the Book of the Ogres, the Book of the Giants, and the Book of Ogia. The Book of Enoch, which is composed in the Hebrew language in the 2nd century, only an Ethiopic version, a few Greek fragments, and some excerpts made by the Byzantine chronographer Georgius Syncellus survive. Mani, who could hardly read the Hebrew, must have used an Aramaic edition. Okay, so this is all the history of how they wrote the book, how they gathered these texts. So we won't go into that too far. It's pretty boring, but I'm going to try and cut to the actual text itself. So remember that we're talking about the story of the fallen angels and their giant sons. So this is part of the story. Okay, so I'm just going to cut in with, the problem is that this piece is not completely finished as much as the Book of Enoch is finished, so we'll put it all together at the end. So, the Book of Enoch did not square with Mani's convictions that no evil could come from good. Therefore, he had transformed them into demons, namely those demons that when the world was being constructed had been imprisoned in the skies under the supervision of the Rex Honoris, or the King of Honor. They rebelled and were recaptured, but 200 of them escaped to the earth. Mani also used the term Ephiropot, preserved in Coptic. So the puzzling clause of Genesis 6:4, the Nephilim were on the earth in those days, was interpreted by Mani in this fashion. When the egregori descended, the animals, or proto-animals, were already in existence. Many confused Nephilim with Nephal. I don't think he did make any confusion. Where the giants and the abortions are mentioned in one breath. In Manichaean parlance, abortion is synonymous with animal. So this is interesting, just using the words there, how humans are actually in the official government text if you look up human or person, it comes up as animal or beast of the field. So it's just an interesting tie-in of how they use words against us. We're going to carry on. There's another portion here that I'm going to get into about the name of God again, and how that was actually used, and what really happened there. So what I know so far is that Samyaza knew the name of God, or one of those angels knew the name of God, and made a deal to give that name to Ishtar, and that is what made Ishtar so powerful, and made him or her a god, a little g god. So what happened there, Taba'et, the son of the serpent, or son of serpent, and Kaba'el taught the oath to the humans. And the oath's name is Pika. They asked Michael to enunciate the name so that they might say it in the oath. And they placed it in Aka'e, in the hand of Michael. The heavens are hung, and the world is hung from the oath. So the oath is God's deal, or God's binding arrangement with the stars and with the heavens and with the heavenly appointed angels to conduct their marching orders as he's laid forth in that deal. And it's a contract. So it's the contract or the covenant with God and the angels. And it's the contract and the covenant to hold up their end of the bargain and hold up the universe as we know it, the earth and the clouds and the heavens and everything. The cosmos, the cosmic devices. So we'll carry on. Back to the book of Ogum, or Ogium. Isn't it interesting that the book of Ogum, and Ogum is a language that's made of scratch marks, basically, bar marks, that is found all over the world and in North America. It's almost as if the giants were on the run and made a run to North America for a while before they were all killed off or captured. And you see that what happened when we talked about earlier that God told the angels to bind. He told Gabriel and Michael and Uriel to bind the bad angels, the fallen angels, and he told them to give a sword or weapons to the giants and cause them to have civil war and kill each other. And so that's what this book is about. There's more. They're named the Gaborim, is another name for giants, from the Syriac word Gabare. In Eastern sources, they are mostly referred to as demons. The puzzling clause the Nephilim were on the earth in those days was possibly misinterpreted. I think that it was not misinterpreted. So we are therefore left with Gaborim, understood as giants. Parth, KW, Kwa, is freely used in Manichaean texts as of the father of light, of solar deities, also of the first man, and Arhaman, with reference to the first battle, which therefore could have been described as Achaman, and it uses a Greek word for it. However, the word Kwa is applied only to men and such beings as are imagined anthropomorphous. Where one would translate it as monster, the Iranian equivalent is Mazan. Thus, the Kafalia, whose breathing operations are responsible for ebb and flow, is called Mitzin-i-Rigi in Middle Persian. Accordingly, the related words Mazan, Mazanig, Sogd, Mitzni, and others should be rendered as monster or gigantic, monstrous. The Egregori and their giant progeny are fought and vanquished by 4 archangels, Raphael, Michael, Gabriel, and Istrael, Enoch, 10-1, or Uriel, or Phanuel. In the Book of the Giants they are called the 4 angels. They are frequently invoked by name in Manichaean prayers. There were no details about individual feats of the giants in the Book of Enoch. Mani filled the gap with the help of the above-mentioned Liber de Ogia Nomine Gigante. So the book of the ogres named giants. This Ogias has been identified with Og of Bashan, who, according to late sources, lived 5,000 years and managed to survive the deluge thanks to his giant size. But possibly stories that primarily appertained to Ogias were transferred to the better-known Og, owing to the resemblance of their names. The name of Ogias is Y in the Manichaean fragments, and this spelling is presumably more correct than that of Ogias. Og indubitably would appear as Wug, since Mani took Y from an Aramaic text. The ending of Ogias cannot be regarded as a Greek addition. Ogias fought with a Draco, and so did Oya. His enemy was the Leviathan. Oya and his brother Ahya were the sons of Shamash, the chief of the egregori in the book of Enoch. So Shem or Shem, different translations of Shamash, and also we know we know what character that is. In the Persian edition of the Kawan, Ohia and Aya are translated as Sam and Nariman, but the original names are kept in one passage. The translator did well to choose Sam Khrsasp, both with regard to Ogia's longevity. Sam is one of the immortals, and to his fight with the dragon, Sam is a famous dragon killer. In the Sogdian fragments, the name of Sam is spelt differently. This name may have been invented to keep the names of the brothers resembling each other. Nariman was evidently not known as Sogdiana as a brother of Sam. According to the Book of the Giants, the preoccupation of Sam Sham was his quarrel with the giant Mahawe, the son of Virog-Dad, who was one of the 20ers of the egregori. The Book of the Giants was published in not less than 6 or 7 languages. From the original Syriac, the Greek and Middle Persian versions were made. The Sogdian edition was probably derived from the Middle Persian, the Uyghur from the Sogdian. There is no trace of a Parthian text. The book may have existed in Coptic. Fragments of the Kawan, Middle Persian. So remember, we're telling the story of Og and of the giants. A hard arrow bow, he that Sam said, blessed be, had he seen this, he would not have died. Then Shamazad said to Sam, his son, all that Mahawe has done is spoilt. Thereupon he said, son and Sam, we are left here until forever and ever, like those that are in the fiery hell, as my father Birogdad was. Then Shamazad says, it is true what he says. He says one of thousands for one of thousands. Sam thereupon began, and Mahawai too, in many places, until to that place he might escape, and something Birogdad. Hobabis robbed Ar of Noxtag, his wife. Thereupon the giants began to kill each other and to abduct their wives. The creatures too began to kill each other. Sam before the sun, one hand in the air, the other, whatever he obtained to his brother, was imprisoned over Toxtag. So, what he's saying there is that the 4 angels, in whatever means, however they did it, were able to make Hobabis sleep with Ar's wife. So again, what it's saying that's interesting is that on Sumeru, in this in-between world, that there, I guess it would be the lower parts of heaven, that there are these towns created, and 36 or 32 towns. The heaven of Indra is situated before the 4 peaks of the Meru and consists of 32 cities of devas. So, the Book of Giants has so far been attested in the following languages: Middle Persian, Thus, the Book of Giants has so far only been transmitted in the East Manichaean tradition by the collection of texts in Berlin, St. Petersburg, and Kyoto. Nothing is left of the original Aramaic text. Gee, I wonder why. But through the use of material from the Book of Giants and Coptic Manichaean writings, the work had also become known as the Manichaeans of Western countries. So again, what I'm getting to here, what's interesting is that the Book of Enoch was written by him at least 300 BC, or quite a distance back, before the Christian era. So what we see that's interesting here is that God hid Enoch until the appointed time. And if this information had been out for the last 3,000 years or 2,000 years and been part of the real public consciousness, if they'd been able to put these pieces together for all this time, humankind could have known for that entire time that these stories were real and could have gone back to God. And even after finding it, look how long it's taken for them to put it together and put it out, and we hear very little of it. This is a very well-kept secret, a very well-guarded secret. And then even the parts that they let out are only portions of the actual text, and they're missing major chunks that have to be filled in by us. And as you see, we've had to go to at least 20 different sources to get all this information. So carrying on, about the giants and Satan himself. The Book of Giants tells the story of those demons who were chained up by the living spirit, assisted by his 7 sons in the 7 lower firmaments of the sky, and of whom 200 had been able to free themselves and return to earth. Here the human race had already spread, and it was the period of the Apostle Enoch. The demons, traditionally called guardians, subjugated humanity and established a tyrannical rule of terror, and with the daughters of mankind they begot a race of giants. The extant fragments mention one of the leaders of the demons, Sachmizad, Middle Persian, and then you see Sxmyz, which is Samyaza, and Shmoized. His sons, the giants, Sham, Sogd, Sham, Shem, and Neriman, another leader, who's under Virogdad, which is that king Virogdad. His son Mahawe, and other names, they describe the fight among the demons, the killing of 400,000 just men, and the struggle of Shamash against the sea monster Leviathan, and the terrible nightmares announcing the punishment of the demons. To seek their interpretation, the winged Mahawai is sent to the apostle Enoch, who was carried to heaven. Finally, the 4 avenging angels, identified as Raphael, Michael, Gabriel, and Israel, or Uriel, were told to put an end to the evil doings of the demons and incarcerated them and their sons, i.e. the giants. So just another place there where it's identified. The Qumran fragments of the Enoch book also resemble the Manichaean Book of Giants because they consider figures of the Mesopotamian Gilgamesh epic as giants. And this is from Milik's theory. Okay. Despite the names of Sam and Neriman, known from the Iranian epic tradition, the story of the giants is not of Iranian origin. Due to Ghazanfar's reference to these figures, Qumran had once assumed the Book of Giants to be of Iranian origin. But the Turfan texts and the Dead Sea Scrolls contradicted this theory. The Iranian names in the Book of Giants in the East Manichaean tradition are translations, not the original. Today, an Iranian influence can at most be assumed. So you see that, again, it is clearly that these beings were all over the earth and had just different names given to them.
Okay. All right, so that was the first half of off of the YouTube channel Medicine Man, the rise of Western civilization and world dominance. So before I get into part 2, in part 2, it's only 5 minutes. And again, I only took just a snippet. I highly encourage you to go to the brother's YouTube channel and watch the video. And as Sis Cheryl, I saw, posted the video, I forgot to mention that he actually has multiple parts to this. So I'm only playing the excerpt from part 1, and this is still not in its full entirety. So I encourage you to go and watch it in its entirety. So before I play the last little smidget, Sister, Brother Sean, did you have anything else you wanted to put on it? And shout out to Be Wise as Serpents and Purple Peel in the chat room.
Okay. Well, you know, they were saying a lot of names. It was kind of confusing, but a lot of names are new. And so that says to me, I don't know what it really says, except for there was a war of the gods going on. And in the middle of that war was humankind. And they were wreaking havoc on this planet at some time. And not, to me, it sounds like they were not living in peace, the giants weren't. They were doing things to the humans, and they were commanded to be killed because of what they were doing. And that is what I heard, if I'm not mistaken, and that is one of the reasons they were ordered to be killed.
Right. Now it's interesting that you bring that up, sis, and I'm glad that you did, because that's why I'm encouraging the family to go listen to the video, because Medicine Man gets into the genealogy and breaking down different species. He did an excellent job. And as I keep saying in this series, if you don't get anything else out of this series, I want you all to enter and understand when we use the term giant, you cannot lump everyone under that same category, because it was different species. Exactly. Purple Peel says keywords: gods, Gods, little g, and a dude even said that in the video. He said little g, Ods, serpent, demon, fallen angels. Okay, very good point. Thank you for that, Purple Peel. So what Purple Peel is saying, and what I've been saying, there are different species associated with giants. And if you listen to, or you not listen, you have to physically look at Medicine Man's videos, because like I said, he used visuals and he types out the language of what he's trying to say. Calling yourself human, and it's deep, because what you had was different species mixing with each other to create hybrids of beings. So we cannot lump all giants in one category. So that particular take what the man was just breaking down in those clips, sure, he was putting it from a biblical perspective, but I wanted you all to see behind the biblical perspective, because you can't take everything. I say you can't take most of everything in that Bible 99% face value. You have to look behind the deeper meaning of what they are trying to say. Okay, so they're talking about a battle between different species who during that time was known as giants. Okay, but it was different bloodlines. That's why I keep stressing on the importance of bloodlines and who you think is whom when we keep talking about the little people and they wreaked habit. Has to really make you think, how did the little people, quote, quote, come about? Okay? And why is the same fuck shit still going on? And as I keep saying, if we are talking about bloodlines tied back to these different species. And I'm just going to go on to say that it still goes back to who's indigenous or who's, indigenous or in tune to the land and who's not. It's a bloodline thing. That's what the battle is about. And Purple Pill said Game of Thrones depict various giants. And see, I couldn't even watch it. I think I got to a couple of episodes, and the one albino princess chick, I'm going to have to break down the motherfucker, just go on and watch it, because I know she was involved with some dragon. She was training some dragon, so now y'all going to make me go back and watch the shit. So thank you for that, Purple Pill. So Purple Pill, again, says Game of Thrones depicted various dragons. Giants. Sorry about that. I'm sorry, go ahead.
The dragons, according to some of the history of the dragons, they were enemies to the dinosaur and the Leviathan. So they have their little thing going on, too.
Now, it's interesting because in that particular clip I played, dude said that he didn't say some of the giants, he just said giants. Their enemy was Leviathan. So just really, really interesting. Okay, and we see that continuously, that theme of the Leviathan going on in different movies that were depicted. And I think about, wasn't it Clash of the Titans, where they were talking about Leviathan coming up out the sea, and Perseus, or unless I'm mixing the shit up, Perseus needing to defeat Leviathan. And the only way to do that, if I'm not mixing up the stories, let me make sure Brother Sean didn't drop off. Okay, I still see him. The only way he supposedly was able to defeat that water sea creature, which again, they're trying to put you up on game, because that water sea creature represents another species. But anyhow, because wasn't Perseus a part of Zeus's motherfucking son and all of that particular jazz? So that represents a certain bloodline. But what did Perseus have to use in order to defeat the Leviathan or the sea creature? Didn't he have to use the head of Medusa?
Oh, yeah, I remember that now.
Right. So who does Medusa represent? Who does Medusa represent?
Female.
Exactly. Exactly.
Wow.
Yeah.
If metaphors are just not talking to us, huh?
Exactly.
Wow.
Exactly. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead on and play this last little 5 minutes and of the video, and I didn't forget y'all what nugget is in here. So we'll come back and chop it up in just a second. Here we go.
Virtually none of Thanksgiving has an ounce of accuracy. No, it's the bestseller.
Okay, I remember. This is a follow-up. When sis, I ran across this. You are going to know what I'm talking about. This is a follow-up of the European, quote, quote, migration over to the Americas, the Pilgrims. Okay, so when you think of that, I'm talking about the typical story. And you all will remember what I was talking about. So again, All of this is in this one part of this video. But I put this in here because we had just talked about this last week. So it's only 5 minutes. So here we go.
Virtually none of Thanksgiving has an ounce of accuracy, notes the bestseller Lies My Teacher Told Me. The idea of Europe bringing civilization to the Americas simply flips truth on its head. This is what European explorers actually found in North America.
Far and away the most beautiful city on earth. 5 times the size of London or Rome. Great towers and buildings rising from the water. 60,000 gleaming houses, and how spacious and how well built they were. Of beautiful stonework and cedar wood, and the wood of other sweet-scented trees. The many streets and boulevards of the city were so neat and well swept, despite the multitude of inhabitants, crisscrossed with a complex network of canals, like an enormous Venice, but also remarkable floating gardens that reminded of nowhere else on earth.
While Europe was drinking water from its polluted city rivers, huge aqueducts transported America's water from fresh springs.
But what impressed most were the special merchant areas where timber and tiles and other building materials were bought and sold, as well as greengrocer streets where one could buy every sort of vegetable, fruits, honeys, nut paste and chocolates. Astonished by the personal cleanliness and hygiene of the colorfully dressed populace, and by their extravagant use of soaps, deodorants and breath sweeteners.
Most Europeans never bathed and kept clothes on at all times. The Pilgrim's Notes biographer Zini Feiner had a terrible smell. Indians tried, quote, without success to teach them to bathe. The settlers also had bad breath from rotting teeth. Death and starvation was so common that corpses were just dumped in open pits known as poreholes. Many turned to alcohol and committed suicide. In fact, the story of the first settlers has been deliberately changed, notes author James Lowen, because the truth is so shameful. They actually settled hundreds of miles further south and stayed in America because the mission was a failure. Their real aim, reports historian Robert Beverly, was to find some gold and take it back to Europe.
They spent their days digging random holes in the ground, haplessly looking for gold instead of planting crops. Soon they were starving and digging up putrid Indian corpses to eat. They took some Indian prisoners and forced them to teach the colonists how to farm.
And the meal with the natives wasn't quite the Thanksgiving shown on TV and in school books.
The colonists offered the Indians a toast to eternal friendship, whereupon the chief, his family, advisors, and 200 followers dropped dead of poison.
In mainstream history books, perhaps the most common description of American territory then is virgin land. In fact, notes historian Peter Jennings, it was widowed. Horrific enough, the Nazi ethnic cleansings in Europe during World War II. Leading American studies professor David Stannard notes it's dwarfed by, quote, far and away the most massive act of genocide in the history of the world. The death of 100 million indigenous people in the, quote, American Holocaust. Some from disease, but also vast numbers from a deliberate policy aimed at wiping out the race that mainstream history books continue to pretend never happened. He notes when Heinrich Himmler called the final solution, quote, delousing, Himmler was only echoing the Pilgrim Army's rallying cry, knits make life, knits being Indian babies. This is a map of Indian nations across the US. 80% of the first government's entire budget went on attacking existing Indian settlements to take their developed farmland. The settlers would most probably not have survived, writes Jennings, on their own. 95% of America's entire population was then wiped out. American Holocaust notes there is documented evidence of colonist leaders going town after town, deliberately killing all men, women and children. Yet school texts and history books remain silent. Orders came from the very top. Under the direct order of George Washington, at least 28 of 30 Seneca towns and all the towns of the Mohawk, Onondaga and Cayuga were simply obliterated. George Washington wrote, the Indian country, quote, must be destroyed. Thomas Jefferson called to, quote, pursue Indians to extermination. Nobel Peace Prize winner Theodore Roosevelt called beneficial the eradication of the native race. Stannard notes genocide was official public policy. California Governor Peter Burnett in his 1851 message to the legislature.
Extermination must continue to be waged until the Indian becomes extinct.
Another governor issued the public proclamation to, quote, pursue, kill and destroy all Indians. A witness notes the ensuing bloodbath practically wiped out the native race.
The whites shoot them down like wolves, men, women, and children, wherever they could find them. This war of extermination against the Aborigines is tending to the final extinction of the race.
What reportedly saved the race from extinction was their use of slave labor.
This extermination policy has proved so injurious to the interests of the whites. Indian labor is indispensable.
Highly prized slaves were Indian girls as young as 3, said the Marysville Appeal, for fulfilling double roles of labor and of lust.
Okay, so I brought that video in because we were just last week talking about it, and I told you all RT News, that was a snippet from that video, Medicine Man's video. I told you all RT News dedicated a documentary about the true story of the quote Caucasian migration over to the Americas, or who they are calling the Pilgrims. What the true story really is. So I wanted to just do a follow-up item on as well. I'm sorry, go ahead, sis.
Yeah, like I told you, that ain't the story I heard about that turkey. We were the turkey.
Yeah, you did. I thought, oh shit, that's what sis was talking about. Yeah, I'm like,
yeah,
oh my.
We were the turkey. And the feather represents the chief's hat that they slaughtered. You know how the turkey has a feather, Thanksgiving? Mm-hmm. It's the chief's hat. So that's what that Indian chiefs that they killed.
Right. So, I find it interesting that now that RT News, so, you all are free to go to that documentary. Now, ideally enough, I tried for years to look for that documentary. And I went to their little site to try to find it, and I couldn't find it. So I'll try again, because that was just a snippet from the documentary.
And you notice
I'm sorry, go ahead, sis.
Notice he notes in the documentary of them slaughtering millions of us, and that stuff is in I think the Book of Columbus. It's like $250,000 because they make it cost so much that they know we can't afford it, and they have all that stuff in the book. And the thing is that they said they took us as slaves to keep from slaughtering us all. And that, yep. They didn't want to try to not slaughter us, but they knew that we had the skills because we had the homes, we had the canals, we had everything. And this when the unions come in the Civil War to push us out so we can't get jobs anymore. Because they brought in their own people from Europe. That's when they opened the borders.
Exactly.
Just like they're doing here down now in San Diego, trying to get them borders open so they can push us out even further for not having food and jobs. And they did that, and they established the unions so we can't get jobs.
Well,
because we're the only ones who had the skills.
Right.
We're the only ones
who knew how to farm the land. So
and
let's
knew how
just
to farm the land and to build and to live. They didn't know nothing.
Right. So let's back up so we can make sure that we're clear on all of this. Okay. So that slavery that they are talking about is the labor contracts.
Right.
It's the labor contract. So slavery was more about labor contracts, and all of that shit got worse after the loss of the wars that were fought. So after those Indian wars and then the Indian war among us, okay? So even the tribe among tribe, because remember, all of us did not agree on the fuck shit. We just didn't. Okay? So we never agreed to have folks come over here to start hunting on the land for furs and all of that and digging in the land for gold, you know, with certain tribes that struck the deal. And remember, I told you all that King Louis from France, melanated man. Europe, because remember, all of Europe was ruled by the black nobility. They had pretty much bankrupted their particular civilization. And I'm going to say again, they bankrupted their civilizations using the same Babylonian system. So that's why I always want us to be clear that this shit is not new. And try not to get so stuck on this one and that one. Look at the systematic way that things are being done, because it's the same thing. So it's the same group of people with the same fucked up system that goes against natural law that can never excel. That's why the shit fails every 7 years. That's where the Jubilee bullshit comes into play. Because their system is against nature. And then it gets to the point where it totally collapses. Okay? So the only way for these folks to survive is to go out and keep conquering and taking over land and setting up the same fucked up Babylonian system where they just repeat the cycle again. So let's be clear. So the man said that when the Mayflower motherfucking folks had came over, that the Americas were already built up with cities. So let's be clear. That means that the indigenous people had already struck deals with the other Europeans, Spain and them. Deals were already struck. Okay? So that's why you see exactly Purple Pill. It's an empire. Absolutely. And that's what I keep trying to get folks to see. It was an empire. So the Babylonian Roman system was already being set up before the Pilgrim and them stepped off the boat. So I'm going to say again, you're not going to convince me, I am not that fucking stupid to think that folks that came over here that cannot farm the land, you don't know shit about the land, you can't even keep your motherfucking ass clean and brush your motherfucking teeth, this, that, and the third, that you turned around and conquered an entire continent. It is not possible. So it did not happen the way they said that it happened. None of it did. The glorification story of the pilgrims coming over here, conquering the indigenous people, is for the purpose to prop up white supremacy.
Well, I don't know if I understand.
Do their part, but what I am telling you, that the empire was already being built prior to the pilgrims coming over. They had lower level positions. So I'm sorry, go ahead, sis. Yes, Purple Pill. Indigenous at the time could easily be compromised with a few shekels of silver. Absolutely. And that's what the warring was amongst the indigenous people, because it was some that wasn't going along with that fuck shit. So I'm sorry. Go ahead, sis.
No, see, I'm understanding the story a little tweak different. We had the huge civilizations before the European ever stepped foot on this land. We had it. We had the waters and the canals and the cities. And they have buried that stuff. I've seen artifacts that they have on documentaries where they show what we had. St. Louis, they buried all of that stuff. The cities that we had, they didn't come over here to strike up no deal with anything except for to get into commerce with the productive civilization that we had. They had nothing to do with the building of the country. They spent years and years burying the stuff, so nobody could know how advanced we really were.
Okay, so let me back up because I want to be real clear, and I hear you and I already know where you're going with it, but I want to be crystal clear on what I'm saying because I want people to open their eyes, not partially, open them all the way up. Who are the they that covered something up?
The Europeans didn't cover all that stuff up.
Okay, who are you classifying as the Europeans?
Well, from what I understand, the Spanish came over here first with their little conquering before Columbus even got here. And the Europeans, the Europeans, and the Europea or whatever, the Spaniards came over here before Columbus even set foot here. And they started taking down our civilizations at that point. The conquistadors is what they used to call them. They were trying to make deals with the Aztecs and the Mayans and other Indian nations that were already here. They're the ones who destroyed the books. They're the ones who burned up everything. Because they didn't want...
And I'm with you. I am not disputing anything, but again, I want to be crystal clear on who are the they.
Yeah.
Were the people that you're speaking of that came over here first destroying stuff, were they, quote, quote, white or were they melanated?
I don't know what the color of the Spaniards were at that time. You say they were melanated.
No. We not what I say. Let's bring the receipts. Because we have to talk about the seed. It's not could have been. We have to talk about the receipts. Who had the seed of power during that time?
Well, if you want to go back anciently, we did. At that time, they got the dates all screwed up as to what.
Okay, so that is the point that we are talking about when we say an empire, because the structures that they speak of the pilgrim seeing, we were already conquered by that time. Those were Roman structures that sat on top of ancient ruins. That is what I'm talking about. Absolutely. But the Roman structures that they tore down and then rebuilt with new Roman structures sat on top of other ancient ruins. So I'm going to say again, we were already conquered when the pilgrims stepped on the shores. We were conquered by other melanated empires. Right, purple pill. Spain equals Iberia. Ever heard of Liberia? Exactly. So that is why I get passionate about it, because the burying the head in the sand, I can't do it no more. I will not do it. I'm not going to participate in it. The Caucasian race that we're calling Caucasian today, and if you really want to get technical about it, Caucasian ain't even a derivative of fucking white.
No.
So, I'm going to say again, they did not come into the seat of power to the late 1800s. Then the 1900s is when they really kicked in. And yes, all of that other history was covered up about the melanated empire, but it wasn't the empire that you think it was of the indigenous people to the land. That was the Babylonian empire of the melanated folk. Everything that these new people on the scene are doing is just an extension. They're copycatting from the melanated Babylonian empire. And as I keep telling you all, I brought you all receipts. The seat of power behind the scenes is still a melanated black, quote, quote, nobility bloodline. You can't come up that fast on your own. So, yes, see, that's what I'm saying, Be Wise as Serpent. Very excellent observation. Liberia, I-E-L plus Iberia. Iberians, L's. Exactly. That's why I keep saying, get out of the color, follow the bloodline, follow the behavior, look at patterns. This was all done for a purpose, for folk to blend in, to keep the fuck shit going. So, all right. Damn, y'all only have 2 more minutes in the chat room, and I couldn't give you any feedback tonight. For whatever reason, I can't type in the chat room. But, oh, man, I really so enjoyed you all. As usual, you were throwing down some powerful information. You have 1 minute before we go into overtime. If you want to join us, continue to join us. You have to dial in 929-477-3858, 929-477-3858. If you are not able to continue with us into overtime, I want to thank you all so much, Be Wise as Serpent and Purple Pill. As always, you all came in and dropped a lot of knowledge. So I truly, truly, truly appreciate it. And yes, Purple Pill, I'm sending you a cyber hug. You said the so-called pyramids were not escaping the monarchy, rather expanding the monarchy. Absolutely. Absolutely. These are empires, and we have shown you that the disagreeables, and I'm going to go as far as to say they are not indigenous to the land, they're not connected to the land. That's why every place they go, they terraform it and excavate it because they have no connection to it. They destroy it. They're just not from here. It's different bloodlines. So it's deeper than some color, as I tell you all. And for us being melanated beings, the older being, now is you're supposed to be in the know to see through the fucking game. Because the who we're calling the Caucasian race is the younger race. They could never fucking conquer you. It had to be something else. And instead of using cognitive dissonance, we want to look all beyond that because the skin is melanated. No, boo, you need to look at that motherfucking bloodline. You need to look at that vibration. See it for what it is. That's how we were conquered. This was the battle of the bloodline. Plain and simple. And I agree, Be Wise as Serpent. They might not even be from Earth or the Milky Way for that matter. You very well could be right. But we do know that that entity and entities, plural, are not indigenous to the land. Because if they were, there's no reason for them to wreak havoc on the land. Right, and if you want to bring the Caucasians into play, I truly believe, and not just who we're calling the Caucasians today, and again, that's why I want you all to go to that video, Medicine Man, the Rise of the Western Civilization, because he goes into how the Neanderthal and the Caucasian, which was melanated, let's be clear, but they do classify that Caucasian as a different species. They classify the Neanderthal as a different species, that they crossbred to create what we know today as Caucasian. And that's why who we're calling Caucasian today has 4% of Neanderthals' blood in their veins. So that's why I keep stating it is deeper than color. This is about bloodlines. This is about crossbreeding for these entities to stay on Terra, because they need to keep the vibration at a certain frequency in order to stay. So, okay, yeah, and peace unto you, Be Wise as Serpent, and Purple Peel. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Okay, so before I move on, Brother Sean might be tied up with other things, so let me make sure he didn't hit me up. I still see him as showing up. Yep, he's still there. Okay, so I want to, now damn it, I know I sent this up. Sis Cheryl, as usual, gave us some excellent information, and I told y'all I'm still trying to get through all of the information. This was off of a post, and so sis, we getting ready to get up in your area. This is out of Cali. Okay, so this is The Giants on Record by Jim Vieira and Hugh Newman. Exclusive. Has the famous 12-foot giant from Lompoc Rancho, California been discovered? Evidence of giants in America has come to light. A few days ago, we met with an artifacts collector who believes he has some fragments of a giant human skull from California. Amazingly, it has never been DNA tested because it was classed as a bear because it was so large. But it may be a human skull of someone between 10 and 12 feet in height, possibly even the elusive Lompoc Rancho account, as it was found very close to this area. Hugh Newman will be revealing photos at AlienCon 21st and 23rd of June, so come along to get the exclusive as well. But whatever. The following text is from The Giants on Record by Jim Vieira and Hugh Newman in the Double Row of Teeth chapter. Okay, so that right there within itself tells you that was a different type of species. Okay, so 12-foot giant in California, the native races of the Pacific states of North America by Hubert Howell, 1875, Lompoc Rancho, California, 1819 and 1833. So remember, as we're going through these different accounts of folk finding giants up in the Americas, notice the dates that they are finding them. They're finding them in the late 1800s, early 1900s, because as I said, and as the receipts show, that's when who we're calling Caucasians were coming into the seat of power. Now, that would mean that the indigenous people of the land, they didn't have no need to motherfucking go and dig nothing up or excavate the land and do this and that, because they were already told what was there and the stories behind what was there. So there was no need for them to do that. So, soldiers digging a pit for a powder magazine at Lompoc Rancho, California, hacked their way through a layer of cemented gravel and found a 12-foot sarcophagus. The skeleton of a giant man about 12 feet tall was found inside. The skeleton was surrounded by carved shells, huge stone axes, 2 spears, and thin sheets of porphyry, a purple mineral with quartz. Damn. Covering the skeleton. Shit, Brother Sean. You talked about those crystals before and remains. Interesting. Anyway, these were covered with unintelligible symbols. He had a double row of teeth, both upper and lower. The soldiers consulted a local tribe of Indians who, after going into a trance, exclaimed they were geographically displaced. Woo! Can't make this shit up. Brother Sean, here we go. Alajiwi Indians from the Ohio Valley area. When the natives began to attach some religious significance to the find, authorities ordered the skeletons and all the artifacts secretly reburied. This was published in 1979 in Giants, The Vanished Race of Mighty Men by Roy Noville. In 1978 in Sowers of Thunder by Anthony Roberts, but the original sighting came from Gods, Demons, and UFOs by Eric Norman, a.k.a. Warren Smith, in 1971. Due to the confusion over this, Jim located the following article that clarifies the original report from 1819, Human Fossils in California, from the Otago Witness, issue 644, April 2nd, 1864. Okay? During the summer of 1862, okay, there go that late 1800s again. During the summer of 1862, a respectable old lady, a native of California who reside not far from the Mission La Purísima in Santa Barbara County, informed us that shortly after she was married, her husband, who was a corporal of the soldiers kept at the mission about 1819, was with his men doing some work about a well near the old mission of the same name, now situated on the ranch called Lompoc, which was destroyed by the great earthquake of 1812. When at San Juan Capistrano was also tumbled down, burying some 15 people in the ruins. Damn. So, real quick, what I just got. You think that earthquake was set off by them digging in those remains and those crystals had formed around those remains and sent off a vibratory shock, and maybe that's what set off the earthquake? sorry. Go ahead, sis. You had something you want to add to it? That's very interesting. Or Brother Sean, I don't know. Hugh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, either one of you. Go ahead, Brother Sean.
I'm thinking also 1812, you also had all the wars going on around the world.
Sure did. The War of 1812. Sure did. Very good point.
No telling what it was or what actually caused it. The technology that was had back then, maybe somebody set up a bomb. Or maybe, like you say, they're bigger than those remains. We know that bodies contain a certain amount of gas and phosphorus and this, that, and the other. Bodies that large. No telling what type of chemical reaction could have been caused. But yeah, it very well could have been because of that.
Yep. Indeed. Sis Sandra, you had something to put on it?
No, I was thinking about something else.
Oh, okay. No worries. Okay, damn, where the hell I was. I'm trying to get in my mind, sis. Where the hell is Santa Barbara? Is that outside of L.A.? Help me get my bearings together on this one.
Barbara is closer to the coast, and they found those remains, and what they proved with those remains is that the American Indian predates the Native American Indian. That's what they found with those remains.
Absolutely.
So that's what they were using it to do, to see who was the really ones who had claim to the planet. I mean, to this part of the planet. As giants were concerned, there was a mammoth found with those remains.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I don't know.
Interesting.
They're just talking about the giants. They didn't talk about that mammoth.
Yeah, but before I forget, I had 2 points. The first one, I think I've been to Santa Barbara before. It's
near the coast. It's over in wine country.
That's what I thought. So it's north of L.A.
Yeah, it's north of L.A. It's south of me, but it's to the west.
Okay, that's what I thought, because it's definitely right on the water. It's breathtakingly beautiful. Yeah, I've been there before.
Had all them fires, I think. That California just had last year, those big fires. And I think part of Santa Barbara and Ventura and everything was on fire.
Okay, so I wanted to say that, and then the mammoth, that was the other thing. Now, you do know that Antarctica is melting at what they call it an alarming rate. I'm like, whatever. And they found a mammoth there in Antarctica, and they're finding other different animals and stuff as Antarctica thaws out.
Right.
I want to put that out there. So now you got a mammoth that was found in Antarctica, and you saying it was a mammoth that was found in California. And then you have the Ohio giant found over in Canada. Okay. All right, so here we go. So they was doing some work and then destroyed by the Great Earthquake of 1812. Ain't that some shit, y'all? When at San Capistrano was also tumbled down, burying some 15 people in the ruins. In the progress of their labors, they disinterred a human skull or skeleton of immense size, which fact getting wind among the Indians of the mission They came down in excited crowds to the soldiers and begged them to desist, as the bones were those of whom they considered gods, which, when disturbed, would work ruin and destruction on all the country around. Seeing the trouble going on, the Padres came among them and made the soldiers replace the bones from where they were taken and forbade their being troubled afterwards. Okay, so the Indians mentioned here are the Chumash. Do you know them? Chumash, who used to call the area Lumpak, meaning Lumpak, meaning stagnant waters or lagoon.
I heard of the Chumash, but I don't know.
Oh, you heard of them? Okay, okay. It goes, in 1837, it was in the hands of the Mexicans, but in 1846, the U.S. gained control of the area, and by the Second World War, it was starting to be used as a military base. Now, I'm going to stop there right quick, because I want to just bring y'all back to the Black Nobility series. And I'm going to bring up the reference of the books, the main books from that series: The Negro Question, Part 2 by Lee B. Cummings, and we did the other Negro Question. I think it was Part 4. Nope, here it is, because I literally, y'all, got the books right beside me. It's Part 6. The Negro Question, Part 6. The 13 Black Colonies. Okay, so in either one of those 2 volumes, he discussed and he brought receipts that the total takedown of the rest of the melanated empires. Now, I have to use that word empires. Hopefully, you're starting to enter and understand what we mean by these empires. Happened in World War II. So I find it very interesting. And matter of fact, he was so strong about it, he said that World War II was purposely used to take down the remaining melanated empires and usher in the new seat of power, which is what we see now with what we're calling white supremacy. All right? So I find it very, very interesting that they're saying that in 1837 it was in the hands of Mexicans, but in 1846 the U.S. gained control of the area, and by the Second World War it was starting to be used as a military base. So the ranch is no longer a ranch. It's currently the Vandenberg Air Force Base, and you are not allowed inside unless if you are looking for a 12-foot giant skeleton, as Hugh found out on his visit there in 2008. Okay, so again, I just pulled this from a post that Sis Cheryl put out, but it is a Facebook post from a Facebook page called Giants on the Record by Jim Vieira and Hugh Newman. All right, so I'll pause in case either one of you want to put something on it before I move on. Yeah. All right. I am going to go to something else I wanted to share with the family. This one is about where are the giants, Nephilim, and mutants hiding? And this was from the YouTube channel BBC International, and a person named Dr. Gene Kim. Oh shit, let me bring on Brother Sean. Hold on a second, family. Let me see if he wants me to bring him in. I just noticed he got dropped. Let me find the video and I'll bring on Brother Sean on a break. Once the video, I get the video going. Bear with me, sorry, Al. All right, this is 15 minutes. Here we go.
So I explained to you in a previous video that in Genesis 6 we believe that giants, that they are the offsprings of the sons of God. Now there are people who have a hard time believing that, so they will try to deny this argument. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to talk about the remnant of the giants, which will be interesting, but I'm also going to add a little bit more apologetics here, a little bit more stuff, which will be convincing. First of all, let's talk about what they believe in verse 4. So there were giants in the earth in those days, and also after that, when the sons of God came in unto the daughters of men, and they bare children to them, the same became mighty men which were of old, men of renown. So you know from this study that we argue that giants, in verse 4, you notice, if you paid attention, it shows that these giants are the offspring of the sons of God. But how they argue against that is, so look at that verse again, it says, there were giants in the earth in those days, and also after that. So that phrase is the key. What they mean by also after that is the first part of the verse. There were giants in the earth in those days. So giants were already there. They weren't the offspring of sons of God. They were already there. And also after that, then what happened? When the sons of God came in unto the daughters of men. So here the sons of God intermingle with the daughters of men, and they produce, notice, mighty men, not giants. They give birth to mighty men. So that's how they get around that. Now, in my previous video, I explained to you the problem with that verse. The problem with that verse is that, so I'm not going to mention all the points, just a simple part. There were giants in the earth in those days, notice semicolon, and also after that. So that phrase, also after that, is not referring to after there were giants in the earth in those days. Why? Because that part, there were giants in the earth in those days, ended with a semicolon. So the also after that is referring to something else. How do you know that? Because it ends with a comma. It's continuing the idea. Notice, and also after that, after what? What's continuing the thought? When the sons of God came in unto the daughters of men, and they bare children to them, the same became mighty men which were of old, men of renown. So the also after that phrase is simply saying, also after when the sons of God intermingled with the daughters of men, it produced those mighty men, which were the giants, we argued. So that's what the also after that was referring to, we argued. Now, the thing is, how we know that for a fact is this one. So here's the point here. Also after that is the crux here. So we have to figure out this. Also after that, is that phrase referring to after the sons of God intermingling? The critics will say no. But we argue yes. We argue that it's after when the sons of God intermingle, then what? The next step is giants. But they want it, the critics, they argue this way. They argue it's giants. It's giants first. There were giants in the earth in those days. And also after that, then it leads to the sons of God intermingling. That's how they want to argue, because they don't want the giants to be the offspring of this intermingling. So which step is right? Is it this one, giants first, also after that, then this one? Let me do this. That way it'll be easier. Is it giants first, then also after that, then sons of God intermingling? Or do we believe it's also after that, sons of God intermingling, then giants? The context is actually, look at verse 1. So in verse 1, they didn't read this part. And it came to pass, when men began to multiply on the face of the earth, and daughters were born unto them, what's first, the giants or sons of God intermingling? Sons of God intermingling. Verse 2, that the sons of God saw the daughters of men, that they were fair, and they took them wives, of which all they chose. So here are these sons of God grabbing these daughters of men, and notice how the Lord described them at verse 3. Look at this. And the Lord said, my spirit shall not always strive with man, for that he also is flesh. Yet his days, remember that, yet his days. So these days that the Lord was talking about, that man is living, when the sons of God were intermingling with them, those days, God says, shall be 120 years. What about those days? Verse 4, there were giants in the earth in what? Those days. So see that? So there's your answer right there. So it's definitely, look, context proved it. So this is supported by context. So not just every single part of verse 4, which we did in our last video, but even context proved it. Context proved that verse 1 through 2, sons of God intermingling, and because of that, in those days, the giants came off. All right? It's not giants first and sons of God intermingling. It's sons of God intermingling, then the giants. Now, here's something interesting as we look at the book of Genesis chapter 7. Genesis 7. Now, isn't it interesting that in Genesis 6, what did God say? God said that the end is come of all flesh, right? Now, here's a question. The question is this, is that, okay, so God drowned out all humans, animals, and even the mutants. But what about the creatures of the sea? Because Noah's Ark did not have an aquarium, obviously. He did not have every single class of fish. Here's another interesting thing. 1 Corinthians 15 says there is all manner of flesh. And remember, God said he'll destroy all flesh. Does that include fish? Well, 1 Corinthians 15 said, in different kinds of flesh, there's humans, birds, creeping things, animals, and fishes. It actually said that. Now, let's see how Genesis 7 describes about God destroying all flesh. He doesn't mention fishes, but he mentions the birds, the creeping things, and the animals, and the humans. Look at this. Genesis chapter 7. Look at verse 21. And all flesh died that moved upon the earth. Now notice, both of fowl, and of cattle, and of beast, and of every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth, and every man. No fish. All in whose nostrils was the breath of life of all that was in the dry land died. Now, that makes sense. Fish don't breathe in air. They don't do that. And every living substance was destroyed, which was upon the face of the what? Ground. See? We're talking about the earth. That's why when God said God will drown the earth, in Genesis 1, the dry land was called what? Earth. Both man and cattle and the creeping things and the fowl of the heaven, and they were destroyed from the earth. Fishes are not mentioned. So here's the thing. What are you getting at, Pastor? What I'm getting at is this, is that when the sons of God intermingled with all sorts of animals, which I showed you at a different video, I'm not going to explain it on this one, but the sons of God, they intermingled with all kinds of things, humans and animals. That's why they were able to produce these kind of offsprings. Giants, or it can be mermaids, centaurs, satyrs, or God knows what. God knows what kind of offspring was produced. Maybe some weird aliens, reptilians. But here's the thing, is that these people survived. Because how do we know they survived? Because look at the book of Deuteronomy. Deuteronomy chapter 2. Deuteronomy chapter 2. You know what the Bible says? The Bible didn't say just giants. It didn't just say it that way. It says remnant of the giants. Do you know what remnant means? Remnant means leftovers that survived. And that's really apparent when you look at the word remnant about Israel. for the tribulation. God says a remnant shall be saved, remnant. Why? Because in the tribulation, at the end times, a lot of them are slaughtered. And there's going to be some that survive. So what did these things survive through? See that? Look at Deuteronomy. Notice what the Word God says at chapter 2. And look at verse 20. That also was accounted a land of, notice, giants. Giants dwelt therein in old time. And the Ammonites called them Zamzummims, a people great and many and tall as the Anakims. But the Lord destroyed them before them, and they succeeded them, and dwelt in their stead. Also look at chapter 2 and verse 10. The Emims dwelt there in time past, a people great, many and tall as the Anakims. Okay, so we see right here that there's this group of giants called Anakims right here. So remember these guys. These bad boys are going to come out pretty important for surviving, actually, these Anakims. Now look at chapter 3. Chapter 3. And notice this is not just some ordinary giants, like really tall people of today. This is something more than that. It's like a little abnormal. It's like supernatural. We're going to look at Deuteronomy chapter 3 and look at verse 11. For only Og, king of Bashan, remained of the what? Remnant of giants. Giants that survived. And you got to realize this. Moses was long before Joshua, and Moses was the one who conquered Og. So you got to realize these giants survived through something else before. Now let's keep reading. Behold, his bedstead was a bedstead of iron. See, this is a little abnormal. Is it not in Rabbith of the children of Ammon? Look how tall he is. 9 cubits was the length thereof, and 4 cubits the breadth of it, after the cubit of a man. That's like a little bit more than 13 feet. See, that's a little bit more than 13 feet. And it's in iron. Why? Because if they make it at wood, maybe he'd break it. But notice the breadth of it, 4 cubits as well. See? So he's really wide right there. I think 4 cubits is 6 feet. I'm not sure. But that's like a pretty long thing for him. Okay, so we know this at Genesis 7, 21 through 22, that when it says all flesh, the thing is that it shows right here that the water, the aquatic animals, survived. So then how did these giants survive at Deuteronomy 2 and 3? Because it said remnant. The reason why they survived, the most logical thing, the only answer you can think of, is that they went underground. It's through these aquatic creatures. Through these aquatic creatures, they were the ones that survived through them. So perhaps these aquatic creatures, they intermingled again, and then they survived. It's also possible they could have went out to outer space, because a lot of when you're going to find demonic activity, it's in 2 places: outer space and bottom of the sea. That's what you're going to find out in the Bible. But you know, it's more out of the bottom of the sea you'll mostly find in the Bible, not outer space. It's mostly from the bottom of the sea. That's why, as one Bible-believing teacher said, Dr. Ruttman, he believes that a lot of the UFOs and aliens, it's more from underground rather than from above. So we see right here something interesting about these remnant of the giants, but these Anakims, look at Joshua 11 now. Joshua 11. This is really interesting about these survivors. Joshua 11. Now remember, Joshua, he had the job of wiping out the giants, right? Moses got rid of the first part of the remnant, and then Joshua was the one next after that. But then you got the story of David and Goliath. You also got the story of Goliath's brothers who have 6 fingers and 6 toes, which is somewhat supernatural. So what happened here? I'll show you something here. Look at Joshua chapter 11. Look at verse 21. The Bible tells you why Goliath survived. The reason why Goliath and the other giants survived is, and at that time came Joshua and cut off the who? Anakims from the mountains. Remember those guys? These bad boys, the giants, Anakims? Now look at this. From Hebron, from Deber, and from Anab, and from all the mountains of Judah, and from all the mountains of Israel, Joshua destroyed them utterly with their cities. There was none of the Anakims left in the land of the children of Israel. Only in where? Gaza. That's the Philistine city. In Gath. Remember Goliath of Gath? That's the Philistine city. And in Ashdod, that's Philistine, there remain. That's why they survived right there. So we see right here how they were able to survive is because these Anakims. So if you want to find leftover of remnant, the closest clue you're going to get is in that location of Philistine. The Philistines would be the location. It's also possible perhaps the Antichrist can come out of that region, because I do know that there are some typologies of Philistines connected with the Antichrist somehow, so which is interesting. So it can be very possible.
Okay, family. So again, that video was an excerpt from Where Are the Giants, Nephilim, and Mutants Hiding? Dr. Gene Kim, and that's off of the YouTube channel BBC International. So the reason I wanted to bring that video into play, although he had a biblical twist on it, was his point of the different species, as we talked of before, and he brought in the element of the species of the sea, and then also he reminded me of the different races of giants, and one of the races of giants that survived were named Anakin. Okay, what is the derivative of that word Anna? Anunnaki. Okay, right? So just another twist on that. So I'll pause, sis, in case you want to put something on it. Otherwise, I'm going to move on. Okay.
No, you can go on.
Okay. That's fine. That's fine. Yep. No worries. All right. And so Brother Sean got kicked off. I couldn't get him back on because I'm not on, and he just said peace and love to everybody. He was traveling anyhow, so he's leaving us early tonight because he got kicked off. All right, so the last video I want to rock out with tonight, and I want us to keep in mind to think about it from the level of bloodline, all of this that we're talking about. So rest in power to Dr. Dilbert Blair. Again, I learned so much from him, especially from a metaphysics perspective. I have a lot of respect for him. This is an excerpt from one of his lectures off of the YouTube channel Masterly Foolish. I highly recommend the family subscribe to that channel. They do an excellent job at taking a lot of the great work that people have put out and breaking it up into 10, 15-minute segments, getting the meat per se out of the lectures. So this particular video off of Masterly Foolish is named Dr. Dilbert Blair, The Difference Between Human, God, Man, and Mankind. So it's only about 10 minutes. So we'll play this, come back, and close out. Here we go.
Our planet has come under a period of ignorance, dumbness, and lowered vibration, and that time is now to move. It is past. There is no reason for ignorance, dumbness, or lowered vibration if you want, and if you happen to be of the sons of the God and you don't respond to it, you will soon be dead. Now, isn't that a big threat? I'm not making the threat. I'm interpreting new and future knowledge. As a metaphysician is supposed to, you have to find out whether you can agree with it or not. There is no truth until you decide what truth is, and each person should find that truth out for his or herself. Human by which, if you look in the encyclopedias and dictionary, it says we're all human beings. That's a lie. We are not all human beings. Human is animal man. Hu was a god Hu, which ruled the lower plains, again, under the old teaching of the ancient Sudanese and Nubian people, and later on the so-called Egyptian people, which was a mixed race. You're going to find out just how mixed in a minute. Human did not come from God, or what we call the Creator, but from lords, or which we now call the Lord God, and animals. They were a creation by scientists who we now refer to as Lord gods. And they made human by engrafting and changing the animal life at different times as they found it on this planet and from other planets, and dropped them off here. God-man, this is the key, and the ones that had the key to the Sphinx and the pyramid, were from the sons of gods, or which we now refer to as the angels. And they were a cross between mankind and the sons of gods, or the angels. Understand this, in fundamentalist teachings, angels are those spirits who represent the Most High and who fly around with wings and live, whether it's in Herod or some of the lower heavens, and do the biddings of God himself. That is a fundamentalist interpretation. I do not decry a religion. I do not argue religion. I say that is only one interpretation of an angel. The other is those who mastered the angles, those who could bend light rays, those who understood the 4 pillars of the sacred sign of the swastika, which was not called the swastika, but a whole different name. It mastered those who could understood the 4 rays of consciousness necessary to exist on the 4th dimension, which Earth was supposed to have been into millions of years ago, but got held back by humans. Now, as humans who are going to begin to die out, and the sons of God must come to the fore, so the angels can return, that awakened person is the one that will now go through changes like you have not seen, as he attempts to throw off the dross, the animal, and come into his own consciousness. Mankind came from the lords of different planets and was soulless and could not reproduce. I repeat the 3. Human, animal man, made from animal species both on this planet and other planets. God-man, the sons of God, and also sometimes interpreting with mankind, a made person again by Lord gods on other planets. And mankind again by strictly the lords of other planets in this one. Obviously, you can begin to see what I'm inferring. This has nothing to do with the Creator, the prime causation, the cosmic universal logoi. This has to do with people who evolve up the ladder, and because of their knowledge of genetics, their knowledge of geography, their knowledge of astrology, their knowledge of astrophysics, when they come to a planet, you treat them like gods. All of the series that you see now, Babylon 5, Deep Space Nine, and all the rest of it, are trying to show you what really may exist in this system and in other systems to let you come into what is now called the planetary brotherhood, to awaken from the idea that you are a lone important species. You are not. But now the Earth is becoming an important place, as we will find out for numbers of reasons over this weekend, as we get deeper even tomorrow than we're going to go tonight. This is to awaken those who are not soulless, but have deep spiritual souls. One of the things that black people have found consistently is that in the face of adversity, they sing. In the face of adversity, they can laugh. In the face of adversity, they come together as a unit. And one thing seems to bother them. They know that they're supposed to worship something. They know that they're supposed to be spiritual entities, but they're not finding the results sometimes strong enough. They have found that in following religions fervently enough, really getting on fire with it, miracles do happen. But down deep, they're not satisfied because they still feel there ought to be a shortcut, and they know that something's there, but it's just not quite right, and daggone it, it frustrates me no end. How many have actually felt like that? Don't lie. If you haven't, you haven't. Most of you do. That's why the churches now, the people are going to the strongest word, the best choir, and the best place where they can also make money and meet good mates, and they're falling away from the little churches that just can't make it anymore. Fundamentalism is separating from the advanced spiritual person. Again, I say this, and don't say I came here and talked about the churches and put them down. I'm not. Let each person go to any church they choose. It is their choosing. They will be responsible for their own souls if they have one. I'm saying that there's a difference between a spiritual person and a religious person. A spiritual person does not need a church, for the home and temple of God that they find their souls in is the church, and how they keep it clean and how they keep it out of ignorance and what they do with it shows their manifestation of the God life. For the other, they need a religious fervor and constantly reminded because they do not have quite the soul that is risen to the point where they can again manifest the Creator within them. So they constantly have to remind themselves as a herd come together to give themselves the strength to carry on. That is changing. That's why you're going to find the church being attacked like never before, and leaders in false churches falling like never before, and that's why the Falwells and all the rest of it, and you find them like little animals attacking each other, each one pulling each other down, and the congregation suffering from it. Because man must learn he does not have to go to a church, he is the church. The temple of the living God is not just a folklore or a little thing that is said. The skull that you have, when properly understood, is a temple. It is so full of potential power and glandular interest there that the best way that the ancients could show it was to build a pyramid and say that that is the skull of man, and then show him the difference between the Sphinx and the others that walk the life. Why is it you think that when Napoleon and the Grenadiers came out onto the Giza Plateau and they saw the Sphinx looking negroid in all of its glory, they went crazy and blew the nose off by sending 19 shot rounds into the nose and then coming back and climbing it and pickaxing at the nose, and now they act like they don't know what the Sphinx used to look like. Why they don't, I don't know. They drew pictures of it and they saw what it looked like. It was a negroid-looking person looking outward, eastward. And it showed again that in front of this big pyramid, they put this skull and this animal. 3 of the secrets of this pyramid, and there's 7 secrets of the pyramid. 3 of them is that the head of the man on the Sphinx and the body of the animal simply shows that, if you notice, there's wings on the Sphinx, there's scales on the Sphinx, there was a tail on the Sphinx, there were claws and hooves. It showed that everything that moved, crawled, or flew on earth was subjugated or was dominated by the chief creature of earth, the Son of God, the man's head. But everything on that man's body of the Sphinx needs those other things to survive, until which time its consciousness rises enough and can outgrow them. It can eat fish. It can eat anything that moves and crawls, snails and everything else. It can breathe in air and live very well on that air if you would. I appreciate that very much. And live on that air if you would. It can do more things by adapting under different vibrations. It can consume everything on earth and live on it, even to the herbs and the berries, if it goes up that far.
All right. So that was Dr. Dilbert Blair, The Difference Between Human, God, and Mankind, and that's off of the YouTube channel Masterly Foolish. So we're going to give our last words. Sis, do you have any last words for the family?
Well, yeah, I'm on that vein what Dr. Blair said, because there's a lot of folklore out there, like the Irish and stuff, and all that manipulation of species, and the war of gods is going to come back. There's a story out there about that they fought before They fought many times, and they'll fight for the seventh and last time. So everybody needs to pay attention to what's happening on the planet, and you keep your vibration up, because that's the only way we're going to make it. And love is the highest frequency on this planet.
Absolutely. And it's beautifully, beautifully said. I do want to thank the family for joining us tonight. We'll be back next week with part 15. I still have some more pieces to share with the family on the giants in the Americas. And then I also just want to once again state that what I want the family to get out of this series, just like the Black Nobility series, and really a lot of the series that we do, is that everything that was taught was half given or just totally reversed or lies. And it was for a purpose. And the deeper purpose is all about the vibrations and who controls Terra, who controls Mother Earth. Because who controls Mother Earth controls the vibration for their survival. But you, being high vibrational beings, that is why the current conditions is considered hell for you. Okay? So it is very, very important that we raise our level of knowledge and consciousness to see through the matrix, above the matrix, to see folks for who they really are at a vibratory state. And enter and understand this is about bloodlines that are trying to survive, because as the consciousness level keeps continuing to rise, and that's including Mother Earth's consciousness level continues to rise, it destroys them, because they are lower vibrational beings and they are not indigenous to the land. Okay? So thank you all for joining us. We're going to rock out with Erykah Badu, Master Teacher. Thank you to Brother Sean. Love you very much. Thank you, Sis Sandra, for joining me as well as my co-host. Love you very much. Peace and love, family. We'll be back next week.